number of the vaccines. It's just that they have not shown up on the platform that we look at. So that is ongoing work. We are working with the counties, and of course we would want to see the counties absorb these vaccines and deliver them into arms, and we will support them to do that. But wherever we find that there may not be good uptake, we will definitely redeploy those to other places where there is a need.
Every rain season in Nairobi is a nightmare for the city dwellers due to issues ranging from traffic jams, flooding and hiked matatu fares. The issues mentioned above have been experienced in the city from Tuesday due to continued rains that have pounded the city hard. With the ongoing construction of the expressway, the situation has been made worse, but Nairobi residents remain hopeful that the water drainage issues will be addressed. On to sports, and Liverpool defender Virgil van Dijk has ruled himself out of representing Netherlands at Euro 2020 this summer. He has not played since suffering an anterior knee ligament injury against Everton last October. He confirmed that he would miss this summer's tournament in order to focus on regaining his fitness ahead of the 2021-2022 campaign. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
The weather with SpiceFM. The weather with SpiceFM. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your...
Hello, how you doing? Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation on this first Thursday of the week. Today, there are some Muslims who are celebrating Eid, and so Eid Mubarak to you all. Welcome to Thursday, 13th day of May 2021. Ndu,
Yes.
how are you?
Am I?
How are you?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning.
Morning. Good to see you.
Good to be seen. How are you doing?
I'm okay.
You're okay, just okay?
Yeah.
Oh,
See, okay says many things.
does actually. Ce n'est pas comme ci, comme ça. C'est d'accord. Okay.
City,
Good morning, Eric.
how's your dako?
I observe that you and do, if I may say it in Kiswahili, mlikuwa mnaongea kikwenu. By the time Adak is introduced into conversation. Okay.
Unaona hiyo?
We are in avian territory. It's good.
City mambo.
Fit sana. Baridi Nairobi ni mingi. It's raining. The roads are getting more flooded.
Yeah.
The potholes are they were ponds yesterday. Today, some have become small lakes.
Yep. Getting worse.
Yes, and NTSA wants to inspect vehicles. Perhaps they should consider, even as they're going through this process, to introduce a law that requires vehicles to be aquatic as well. So that when it rains like this, vehicles have the option of functioning like boats. It would help tremendously.
Hey, hivyo ndio maisha huenda.
Yes, that is how life goes.
Welcome to the show, everybody. And like we said, Eid Mubarak to everybody who is marking the end of Ramadan today. And even tomorrow, those who will be marking tomorrow, will also wish you a happy Eid, as we have a public holiday tomorrow. Conversations to take place today. So, we will revisit the conversation on dairy and the dairy sector in Kenya. the viability of a dairy sector in Kenya. What is it that is needed from the production all the way to the market? What's required? So we'll have a talk with an expert in the dairy sector on that. And also we'll be looking at very many other things that have happened in the country in the headlines. So today, the cases on the BBI will be ruled on. So the judgment will be delivered today by judges. And then we'll hear the kind of reactions. Already the secretariat, the BBI secretariat is saying, good of the people.
And then judge based
Go with
on
the
mood.
times. Go with the times. It doesn't matter what you think. Just look, do the people want this thing or not? Give the people what they want. That's what the secretariat basically is saying, led by Junaid Mohammed and Dennis Wawero. And then the hearing against the governor of Wajir began yesterday. Where he will have his moment to respond today. Yesterday was the day for the county assembly to present its case. Today is the day for the governor to respond. So that also will be an interesting conversation. All these and more. When it comes to COVID and the Indian variant of the COVID virus, so there are more and more people that have tested positive for that particular variant.
Yes.
But they've been placed in isolation.
And there's also now talks that there could be something secondary to that that they still don't understand. So the
In
other
Kenya?
day, no.
Oh, in India.
In India.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So those ones who've been found have been placed in isolation in Kenya. But just off the from that is that yet another strain which they still quite can't understand, separate from the one that we saw was causing this organ failure with the mycosis. They found yet another one that they still don't understand what is happening here. And so they're looking at that to try and understand, are we looking at like now a mutation of this particular variant? Are they looking at the same one with different symptoms? So it's puzzling people. And if we look at the numbers now that are being recorded in India, 23,702,832 right now is the number. And looking at the cases then that were reported yesterday, 362,406 new cases, 4,126 new deaths. We've increased already by Thursday by about 1 million cases. So, yeah, still taking this pretty hard. Coming back to Kenya, according to the announcement made by the Ministry of Health yesterday, fueled by experts, acting DG, Dr. Amoth, says that there could be another wave of COVID-19 in the country come July. And this is what experts are talking about now, saying that it's very possible this could happen. And once again, asking everybody to be on high alert and then take care as concerns measures.
So fourth wave in July, that's so close.
It's very close. We're looking at about a month and a half from now. But this is what is coming from the Ministry of Health. And yet again, we know that according to them, it's being fueled by information coming from experts. We're still not able to reach 1 million vaccinations administered in the country. 925,509 is what we're looking at. 282,058 years and above. 161,000 health workers. 145,000 teachers. 78 security officers. And others fall into 256,365. All right. So if we look at the number of cases that were reported yesterday across the country, total positive cases now are 164,386. 410 people tested positive yesterday from a sample size of 3,799. And looking at that positivity rate, slightly upwards from the 8% of the day before to 10.8%. This is just from this sample.
Sample of how many?
3,799. 410 people tested positive. All right.
And the 8% positivity rate was a sample of
1,000 and so the day before that. Okay. We're looking at a mean of about 9% positivity rate in the country right now. And so it'll be interesting to see how the week closes out. But if we're then looking at what experts are calling a fourth wave in July, there are definitely things that are indicating or fueling this new information. All right, so that's what we're looking at now. And it still continues that we're waiting to see where a new set of vaccines will come from and when they will arrive in the country.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
So more vaccines coming. Government saying they've had conversations with Johnson & Johnson. We could be getting Johnson & Johnson vaccines as well. Talking about if we commit, then we can have them even as soon as June or July. Okay.
But into that conversation, there are talks that Russia and China want to vaccinate the whole world. They want to provide...
Especially the third part
Yes.
of Which is a good thing.
It opens up this conversation and it opens up the playing field. Yes.
It's a good thing. I mean, the thing is, I think it's the framing of the conversation which is nonsensical in my view. China and Russia want to vaccinate the third world to beat the...
Whole world.
Look, China and Russia are playing in the same field as the companies in the West are playing. China and Russia are saying, we have a vaccine, it's available for use, just the same way the West has been saying. Now, just because the China and Russia are saying it, it becomes, oh, China and Russia now want to vaccinate the world. Connie, what is the West doing?
Actually, the West isn't doing that.
They're saying it,
The West is playing politics
but
with
they're
their
not
vaccine.
doing anything.
They are, well, we will, well, we won't. We haven't tested it. Our regulators haven't passed it. We're not quite sure. Okay, no, we've passed it. The kiddie vaccine can now work. That's the discussion. These are these commercial games that the West plays all the time. And I think their bluff is being called. This is how I took it. This is how I understood it. China and Russia saying, okay, carry on. Us, we are willing to consider just providing these things since we have them, and those who need the vaccines can have them.
Yeah.
Forget this nonsensical red tape and going around in circles.
Yeah.
But wait and see. The debate will arise. But these vaccines, are they really efficacious?
That's why I'm
Do
saying.
they
That's
really
the
work?
problem.
The phrasing of this conversation, when it starts with China and Russia want to vaccinate the world, that's the whole point of that phrasing of that conversation. China and Russia developed a vaccine. We have
Vaccines, it's not
seen
one.
We have seen that it's
we have
working in
seen
their
it's working.
countries.
Even here, it has arrived in Kenya. Chinese vaccine has been used in parts of this continent. Okay. Then there's this whole conversation of what's the name of this island that vaccinated almost everybody.
Seychelles.
Yeah. And then now they're saying, oh, you see now that that's China vaccine. Now you see come on.
But let's
It's all
start,
just trying
let's
to
start, if
play
we're talking figures,
negativity.
numbers, 1.41 billion people. The vaccines they're using in China are Chinese vaccines. Okay? Are people dropping off and dying like flies?
Have
No.
you heard that there's been an increase in cases in China? We haven't. And if you just look very quickly at the numbers in China, for the longest time, the numbers in China have been below 90,000, right?
The whole of China.
The whole of China. And we can remember when COVID actually began, we were looking at numbers doubling, tripling on a daily basis. But if we look at the numbers now, China's still, okay, there you go, 90,808 cases. The highest number that they found in the last 24 hours was 9.
And 0 deaths.
Tell us about Russia.
Okay, let's look at Russia as well. Okay, Russia's cases, we'll find that in a minute. In a second, actually. So, Russia now has 4,905,059 cases.
114,000 deaths.
114,000 deaths. They got 8,217 new cases as of the 12th of May, 355 new deaths. All right.
And they are using their own vaccines, the same vaccines that they have given India. So, twist
And
this
they have actually given India.
Oh, they have
yes,
given.
They've
They
given.
have given. They
Yeah.
spoke and we knew the plane. They have given. China has done the same thing. The US is still talking about the help they want to give.
But you see, the thing is, unfortunately, when we talk about nationalism and all the geopolitics surrounding this thing, it is very clear that it would be a PR stint to try and mar the image of a country now who is actually doing something about this. They've realized that it's working in their country and they're giving it out. Nobody's asking for money. They're saying, you know what, here we are in a position to be able to vaccinate other countries that may not have, and then let's just get this thing on the road. Instead of talking about it, we're actually doing something about it, and we're giving people a first line of defense.
Don't seem to realize they are the ones who are empowering China and empowering the USSR. They're
to do this, actually.
They are, because how did this continent and their leaders move towards China? It's because of these two-faced policies that the West have, okay? Double speak on the one hand, no speak on the other, confusion on the other, and then nonsensical rules that even they don't apply on their own citizens. So China came and said, folks,
as you're dilly-dallying,
why don't we come and have a chat with you? President Kibaki and the people who led this continent at that time trooped to China. And they have never looked back.
Which, like I say, look, these are countries that are playing the same in the same field as everybody else. Why the West would start looking at them and saying, oh, they are emerging, Russia is not an emerging power.
No, it is not.
Russia has been the superpower.
This thing annoys you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's because they're trying to make it appear like, now Russia is catching up. Russia is not catching up. Russia has been ahead. Russia took people to space before anybody else in the world.
They did.
Come on.
They did.
18 minutes after 6. Let's just take this break and take a
like
look at the weather.
Yes.
People trying to make it appear like, they're the ones
Eric
who...
is almost joking on this thing.
Telling you.
Okay.
So we are live streaming on SpiceFM KE on YouTube, on Facebook and Twitter. Say hello. We'll be saying hello to you shortly. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nyeri.
Have you seen them? Am I lying?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Everyone in Wasingishu was asking me what channel is Spice FM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
What
you.
a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you, and it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here. Very Swiss temperatures.
The weather.
Okay, the rain continues to come down. It's 17 degrees in Nairobi, highs of 23 and lows of 16. It's raining in Nyeri as well at 15, highs of 22 today. 24 will be the high in Nakuru, where it's raining at 15. 13 degrees and clear skies in Eldoret, highs of 22 and lows of 14. 27 the high in Kisumu, it's mostly clear at 18. It's clear in Kakamega at 14, highs of 27 and lows of 16 today. Looking at mostly clear conditions in Mombasa at 25, highs of 30. Highs of 30 in Malindi as well. It's clear at 28, mostly clear in Kampala at 19, highs of 25 and lows of 18. We're looking at clear conditions in Dar es Salaam at 23. That'll be the low for today, highs of 30, and 23 will be the high in Johannesburg, where it's clear at 11. 26 degrees and cloudy conditions in Lagos, highs of 32. Highs of 33 in Kinshasa. It's clear at 24. Quite warm in Beijing at 22, highs of 25 and lows of 16. And Paris is raining at 10, highs of 16 and lows of 9. Mostly cloudy conditions in London at 12, highs of 12 and lows of 9. And it's still Wednesday night in New York, but coming into Thursday, we're going to see highs of 19 and lows of 9 and mostly clear skies in the Big Apple for most of the day.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice
Okay.
FM.
How
Nairobi.
are you doing? 21 minutes after 6. Who's online?
Oh, quite a number of people online this morning. Patrick Monari says, good morning from Eldoret. Which vaccine should we trust? Isn't that the question? Baraza Simiyu, a new day.
All vaccines that are passed by the Poisons and Pharmacy and Poisons Board, trust them.
There you go. You've heard it from Eric. Githurai is well locked, according to Baraza. Stanley Kamigwe is tuning from Dandora this morning. And Donya Mary says, good morning. Otieno Odero Jr. Good morning, Spice FM Situation Room. Kino is awake and listening. Fantastic. Richard Sapati is a Ghanaian in New York. I'm an Englishman. I'm a Ghanaian in... Okay. Says, good morning to you. Thanks for the work you're doing, watching and listening. Karibu Sana. Enoch Lagat just tuned in this morning as well. Hopkins Mwaba, Zambia is here, he says. And Jose Jays is tuning from Nakuru. Harold Ayodo, good morning. Anyone in Nairobi with links to where I can hire a speedboat to cruise to work during this rainy season? Well, I think that's a question that a lot of folks are asking as well. Good morning, Donald Namema says he's tuned in from Luanda in Vihiga. And Bilal Abu Dawad is listening from South B. Eid Mubarak, says Rogers, from County 001 to you too, brother. Robert Mbogo, good morning, well represented in Mombasa. And on the other side, another Mbogo, this time Alex, is tuned in from Nyeri. Baywa Macha, tuned in from Machakos. And Vincent Omondi is listening from Kisumu. Oh, James G. cannot forget one. Johi Jemo says, good morning. Ready for forthright and bold discussions. Asanteni Sana and Karibuni Nyote.
Everybody wake up. Tout le monde wake up.
Tout le monde wake up.
Wake up.
Is that what the song actually says?
City, today's proverb?
Okay. There are communities that believe when it rains like this, ancestral demons start appearing and they manifest themselves in strange ways. Keep channeling, my brother, sister, keep channeling. Okay. One who causes misfortune also teaches wisdom.
Atake.
One who causes atake, misfortune, also teaches atake, wisdom.
Okay. Kerea.
Nini.
One who causes Kerea
can also
causes
Kerea.
All right.
Okay.
Told you. They're up and about.
He's exercising those things properly today.
Channeling.
It's Eid. We're celebrating. Let's take a look at the headlines. Yes.
Let's do that, shall we? Okay, so let's start in the region. Museveni was being sworn in yesterday. You kind of forgot that he won the election, right? So he's eyeing for...
Prudent step.
Isn't it?
Give it time until people forget. Then
and then you come in, boom. Hello, yes. I'm being inaugurated. Me.
Myself.
And he's got a special guest in the name of President Uhuru Kenyatta. He joined several other African heads of state at the inauguration ceremony yesterday at the Kololo Ceremonial Grounds in Kampala. And it was very interesting during his inauguration because he lectured the West in a very interesting use of words yesterday. He took another swipe at them for imposing air-conditioned democracy on Africa. In his speech after swearing in for his 6th 5-year elected term, the Ugandan leader told a gathering of African heads of state and other dignitaries that Africa's rise from poverty remains in established stronger integration between them, warning divisions will allow outsiders to continue looting. So it's the outsiders now that are the problem, It was a message and a pledge of what he will do in his 6th term in office, focusing on building African connections. In Uganda, he argued the democracy practice there is suitable for the society. So all of you who are talking, please, it's working for us because it was built by the public after tiring from the colonial hangovers. We're tired of this nonsense. We're building it for ourselves. It's Ugandan democracy. Don't knock it.
It's ours.
He says it is therefore quite comic to hear of some actors in the world giving us lectures about democracy. We designed this system not from air-conditioned rooms, but from the jungles of our country where we lived with the people. He was speaking at the iconic Kololo Ceremonial Grounds in Kampala. So, invoking episodes from his famous Bush War stories, he referred to his 17-year struggle to unseat the administrations of Idi Amin and Milton Obote, whom he argued were removed because of support from the masses. He accused them of looting Uganda's resources, killing entrepreneurial spirit, and oppressing citizens. And he says he took power in 1986 following a storm into Kampala after the Battle of the Luwero Triangle, a region north of Kampala, along today's Kampala-Juba highway. So he spoke to this audience and he said, now is the time, brothers, for us to come together. Leave this nonsense of the West. This is our democracy. We have defined it. We have created it. we should practice it and not continue taking these authoritarian and patronizing ideas from outside quarters.
I like that quote, what he said. Yeah? It is therefore quite comic and laughable to hear of some actors in the world giving us lectures about democracy. You give me a lecture about democracy? Where are your credentials?
Is that not an interesting question to ask?
Very seriously, though.
Who are you? Come and tell me about democracy in your air conditions.
We have created our own.
Forget the air condition. Yeah? If there is a country where polarization that exists on racial lines has been brought to the fore, it is the US of A. With such clarity that even if you're blind, you can actually see it. So, again, the hypocritical lecturing of how we should go about our democracy, I think it's not a question of being toned down. Put a realistic face on it. Some of these issues aren't democratic issues. They are cultural issues. There is a way in which we want to operationalize our democracy. It cannot follow to the very, very fine article of the letter the way the West does it. That's theirs. They have evolved and gotten there the way they have. Yes. So, if we were to follow theirs, then it means that we will make all the mistakes that they have made and compound it with the mistakes that we are making all on our own. What this smacks of is what I would call disrespect. Because here you are lecturing us, and there are things that you say which are true. On the human rights front, it is true. But you know, this issue of human rights in the US...
human rights as per whose definition?
Precisely, but I'm going to take it further. While we were having the Nuremberg trials, and Nazi Germany were on trial, America, US of A, were abrogating those very same human rights. The Tuskegee Project, the syphilis study, was ongoing at the same time.
Full throttle.
At the same time
State
that the Nuremberg trial. Yes, it was state sanctioned. And it carried on into the 70s. So one really has to soft pedal this issue. And this big brother, I know better than you do, and I'm better than you do. Yes, we need help. But a little respect is important, because if we want at least even useful in the most minuscule sense of the word, you wouldn't bother, would you?
There you go.
You wouldn't.
Yes.
The patronizing manner in which it's done, I think, is what a lot of them, especially people like leaders like Museveni, have an issue with. It's the patronizing manner in which you come at me. If you're coming for us to work together, okay. You don't come into my house and tell me how to operate.
But to be fair also, sometimes our leaders do carry it a little bit too much, don't they?
Of course they do.
Yes,
they do.
But let us deal with them.
They
are our leaders.
You still can't come into my house.
Or we allow them to elect themselves. But they are
ours.
Leaders.
Let us deal with them. Don't come and tell us how to deal with them. Jobs.standardmedia.co.ke. That's the website that we'd like you to log on to. Jobs.standardmedia.co.ke. Well, very many jobs that have been advertised there. And if you don't find any that suits you today, subscribe. You will get alerts on your mobile phone or email when a job that suits you is advertised. The United Nations Environment Programme has advertised several jobs today. Hey, number. Finance and Budget Officer. Can you imagine working in Finance and Budget of UNEP? Kenyan mentality. Program Officer at the United Nations Office in Nairobi. Also, the Procurement Officer at the United Nations Office in Nairobi. Procurement Officer at the UN.
Right, Procurement Officer. Think like a Kenyan.
Think like a Kenyan.
Then
you get there and you get shocked.
No. They get shocked that you've transferred the whole UN to your own backyard.
6:30, time for us to take a look at the traffic, and then we look at more headlines. Good morning.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
It's time to answer questions that are worthwhile. The Big Quiz Show is here. Register to play from the comfort of your home by SMSing the word JOIN to 23774. Then watch the live show on KTN every Sunday from 8 p.m. where you could have a chance to win a milli. The fastest and most accurate answers are guaranteed to win. The Big Quiz Show, Sundays at 8 p.m. only on KTN.
Naivas Supermarket believes in celebrating mothers every day. Tune in to Sugar and Spice with me, Yolanda Mulo and DJ Absolute from 11 a.m. every weekday to learn more about a Naivas mum and the similarities you can draw from the role it plays to Kenyans across the country. And stand a chance to win shopping vouchers with Naivas.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
As the Kenyans are roared into the home straight here, 4 Kenyan queens have lit up this balmy Bahamian night.
It's where the rivalry is unmatched, where the soul meets the track, where the great are distinguished from the good. An arena where the records are broken.
A new world record. It's not just been beaten, it's been obliterated.
A stage where the legends are born. For Team Kenya, the Olympics is more than just a sport. It is our tradition. It's an event that has put Kenya on the roadmap. The Standard Group lets you watch every minute and every action live in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. Because we live for Team Kenya. We live for the game. At Standard Group, sports lives here.
It starts at the Weighbridge on Mombasa Road today, and it's already coming in hot and heavy today. It's not raining at this point, but it's going to continue come back at some point from what it says. Namanga Road towards Kitengela is moving well, and then guess what? You get to the Weighbridge, and then you are going to stop. Boom. Because there's traffic. Let's look at Thika Road. Also coming into the city, very, very slow today. Also on Jogo Road, Langata Road as well, already giving up those vibes. It looks like it's going to be another day like that, but we're going to watch and see what's happening. Folks are trying to avoid General Motors and then are using the ICD route, also coming from Changom. So they're using that as well. So those are some of the options that we've seen right now. The Southern Bypass also is an option. Let's look at what it looks like in about half an hour or so. Let's see how much jam we'll be dealing with. So it's that day. We started off again. Hopefully it will not be as crazy as yesterday, but we'll keep our options open. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text on 40127. Let's talk in half an hour and see how things have changed. Good.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
25 minutes to 7 o'clock. More headlines in the paper. So as we're still talking about KCSE and the results, you see that section in the Daily Nation on page 2 where they bring in young journalists, aspiring journalists too, and they give them space to publish. So today there's a story written by a 20-year-old Caroline Oyaro, who says, "Dear KCSE candidate, that D shouldn't spell your destiny. It says D plus E is the beginning of a successful life. It all depends on you." Then there's a story on page 3 of a 19-year-old boy who got an A-. This is a story of resilience and everything else. This boy is the son of a single mother. They live in Malindi. The single mother gave birth to him when she was still a teenager. 19 years ago, she was still in primary school in 2002. The man who was responsible for the pregnancy took off and left the girl to fend for herself. Now, Juliet Nanjala raised the boy who has made her proud 19 years later by scoring an A- of 75 points at Istikama Secondary School in Malindi, which had offered him a 4-year scholarship. Last year, when schools were closed because of COVID, and many were now turning into online learning and all, this boy was working in Mjengos in Malindi because his mom works somewhere and she only comes on the weekends, and he has a younger sibling. So it was his responsibility to take care of the younger sibling. So he'd go work in construction sites, come later in the evening, take care of his sibling. I have never owned a smartphone, so the option of online learning was out. I only heard of students attending online classes. In between jobs at construction sites, it was also this boy Wabuire's responsibility to take care of his sibling because their mother worked throughout the week. He says his mother only comes home on weekends and he had to ensure there is food and other basics for the two of them. That's him and his young brother. But he also goes ahead to say, I am a fast learner. I hardly forget what I read. So it was easy to get what the rest of the students had done. A minus, Form 4. Despite all the odds, with all the hardships that he's gone through.
Brilliant.
A minus.
Brilliant.
And the school had actually also recognized the kind of talent that he has and offered him free scholarship 4 years throughout the high school.
And brilliant, because I think he also scored quote-unquote low in his KCPE.
Yep.
So he had doubts in terms of what he was going to be able to do thereafter.
Yes.
But the circumstances, obviously, are what is interesting to see that he was able to beat that. It's true, then, a D or doesn't spell your destiny.
It does not.
Yep.
It doesn't actually, change who you are or the opportunities that are there for you in life. There's another story that's also related, and let me look for it. Had I seen it in the Standard or the Nation? It's a story of a boy who scored 295 marks in KCPE 4 years ago. Now he has scored an A of 81 points.
Beautiful.
He got 295 marks in KCPE. I was mocked by many people, but my parents gave me hope. I had a group of boys who I studied with, even during the COVID-19. The boy's name is Moses Kabira. He now wants to pursue medicine, a passion that he has had from early on in his education journey. He joined Njia Boys in Igembe Central, Meru County, when it was a county school, had a lot of challenges in primary school, and I deserved the 295 marks that I got. But I worked hard, and now he has imagined an A. Lovely story, isn't it?
I'm certain there are many, many such stories, and our listeners should let us know if they know of people who overcome all sorts of obstacles and odds to actually do well in these exams.
To get there.
Yes.
To get there.
And not just Form 4, even Standard 8. I mean, the circumstances under which people study. Remember, we started talking about this when we had those huge floods the other year. And we said schools were abandoned, schools were marooned. And then we're saying, how on earth will these students actually get to study? How will they fare?
Yeah.
And now we have the outcome. Yes, maybe not from the areas we spoke of, but it would be nice to hear what happened to some of the students in some of those areas.
Yeah.
Those who had to move schools, go to another school.
The resilience is
Let me shift gears, shall I? Right. Remember, there was this little standoff we had between KEMSA and USAID.
Yes.
It has grown.
Oh, it most certainly has. It most certainly has.
Yeah.
According to the report on The Nation on page 12, the headline is standoff as KEMSA loses 70 billion contract with US. You see, USAID contracted KEMSA to actually procure and to make provision. This is a 5-year contract, by the way, for anti-malarial, HIV, TB, all these drugs that were needed. KEMSA was given that particular contract. However, issues were raised long before USA decided to put their foot down, and more, and then more, and then more. But discussions have been ongoing. Now, the culmination of those discussions have been this. This is what the US government has asked. They've asked, please, okay, it's a request that could the ministry designate Chemonics. By the way, this is a Washington, D.C.-based distribution company. And this is what they do, actually. They are into logistics. Now, they have handled one of the biggest U.S. government contracts in this field. Something like 9.4 billion, just logistics.
Yeah.
Right. They have asked that Chemonics be an authorized agent of KEMSA expeditiously as possible. Now, this is a letter that has been signed by the person who oversees these matters. Okay, that's the Charge d'Affaires of the U.S. Embassy in Kenya, Mr. Eric Needler. The understanding of this is so that as they're working out these problems that they seem to have, because USAID have said, look, there are certain things that have to be put in place. And our government, through the ministry, through our minister, have said, yes, Oversight is important. It's important for us to do these things. But so that we can continue working well, this is what is required. So that Chemonics can be allowed to import, warehouse, and distribute commodities during the period the U.S. government is not able to work with KEMSA. So, in the intervening time before they get to work with KEMSA, believe me, this storm is far from over.
Yeah.
This one?
Why I'm telling you it is far from over. If you look at the history of money that came from PEPFAR into this country, one of the things that characterized it, beyond the good work that was being done, are clever individuals who believed that this is money that was ripe for pilfering. And what they didn't know, that even as you sent in data, the people who are giving you the money were also collecting their data, looking at the reality of the situation. And when they summed up, when they collated the data, so to speak, they realized that they've been spending money on things that didn't need to have spent money on at all. There were cases where it was documented there were X number of patients. Sometimes those patients had been triplicated. Okay? And a host of other things. So all they did was rationalize what they thought was the reality, cut funding by 30%, wait a little bit, cut it by another 20%. So you suddenly found that you are being asked to do more or less the same thing that you were doing, and you have 40% of what you had before. Now, KEMSA have been asking to have this strict oversight for the longest time. My problem isn't oversight, it's the way in which it is done. This is something that can be done, it can be spoken of, it can be ironed out, but it's unfortunate that the departments that we have that deal with these things, they will say yes, they will change, but unfortunately when you look at the activities, nothing really changes.
They don't.
But the CS said, and a couple of days ago, and he said from this, just as the story emerged in the details before today, that, look, we don't feel as if it should go to Chemonics. We feel that because we have changed the members of the board of KEMSA, that should actually solve the problem. And now that we have a new board in place, they should be able to take care of things that had previously gone wrong.
Bollocks.
That's a punctuation now.
Yes, a punctuation. The minister knows full well that not much has changed because the problems of KEMSA are the problems of the Ministry of Health. Yes, we can point a finger at KEMSA and say they are to blame. The problems emanate from the Ministry of Health.
You know what is the most annoying part of it is that this is a number of things. One, it's a revenue stream to KEMSA that is going. Two, it's the... what can we say? Does Chemonics have the kind of logistical framework that KEMSA has?
Better.
Across the country?
Better.
So they came in and established an entire logistical framework with cold chain and all.
One of the things that they did, that USAID did and Global Fund did, this chain that you speak of, they helped develop it. So it's not as though they're going to create their own.
So they helped develop a private sector to
have this capacity. To ensure. That's what they did. They didn't just give KEMSA money. They developed KEMSA's capacity to be able to distribute and to do all the things that KEMSA is supposed to do. So they're not using new networks. It's the same network. It's just that KEMSA is not going to be the one in charge. KEMSA, look, put it this way.
So what I'm asking is...
So did you essentially use KEMSA's network?
So it was KEMSA's network that they developed?
Yes, they helped develop KEMSA's network.
Okay, so that's what I'm asking. So does this new entity have the same capacity as KEMSA?
On its own?
On its own.
Without KEMSA's network?
I don't think
the logistical
it does.
capacity for ensuring that drugs arrive. There is an entire infrastructure that is in place across the country in cases where you require, because it's not just HIV drugs, it's going to move into everything else.
There's TB,
Yes.
there's...
So if cold chain is required, can we say for certain that in this particular area you actually have that capacity on the ground? Or is this going to now be rededication of serious resources into building that network?
I
where
don't
KEMSA should have just...
Eric, they're asking to be an agent. They're asking KEMSA to make Chemonics an agent. Yes. Not to take over the functions of KEMSA. An agent means that somebody you allocate work to. But using your system, which they helped you create.
So they come into your house, they just basically are the ones who are cooking.
They come into the house, they help you build.
And then, yes, but they are coming into your house. It's your house. Whether they helped you build or
yes,
not.
it is.
So you're telling me, because I helped you build this house, I'm going to bring somebody who you're going to allow to cook.
That's half the story. We are giving you money. It's not your money that we're discussing here. We're discussing money that we give you and which you're supposed to do certain things with. And over time, it isn't as though they woke up last year and decided. No, it's over a long period of time. Look, this is what we've observed. Knowing how donor agencies work, they have been giving reports and saying, folks, we have a problem with this. We have a problem with this. They didn't start yesterday. They've been saying it for some time. But Eric, let me ask the question. If you are donating something, surely don't you have a right to ask and to determine whether it's being used or being put to the use that you intended it for?
Indeed, you do.
Yes.
You do.
And shouldn't you ask for accountability?
You do.
Sure.
You have all those. That's what I'm saying. It's unfortunate that we are getting to a point where an organization such as KEMSA, which is not a new organization, it was not developed under PEPFAR.
No, it
KEMSA
wasn't.
was there even before.
It wasn't.
KEMSA has been there, and it's a government entity that now another private entity is going to come and run such a program. Well, all you needed to do was just do things the right way.
And let's not forget
And
that
for
there are
the
people
benefits-
who are waiting in all this impasse. There are people who are waiting for the distribution of these drugs, who have been dependent on them for years and know that there was another one coming for their next few months' doses.
The
They are
only
waiting.
reason we are surviving is because Global Fund haven't pulled.
They've not pulled out their
grant from
their
Gaddafi.
donations
no,
either.
they haven't. No, and that's what we're surviving on even right now. Should they?
Now we're going to have a bit of a pickle.
Look, if you want to understand how this thing rolls out and works out, look at blood donation in the country. It'll give you a very clear picture of what happens. We had blood donation services before PEPFAR came in. It even worked well. Then they came in, expanded the services, kept telling the Ministry of Health, when it gets to this point, it's a
Please, we
5-year
have
program.
5 years left.
Yes, we have 3 years left. We have 2 years left.
We can even make a suggestion of what you ought to do.
Yes. We have 1 year left. Okay, we can even extend it. Then, boom, as you like saying, and here we are.
Time for a break at 11 minutes to 7. Quick break and then we look at more headlines in the papers. Good morning. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
"24 teams, 12 host cities, 6 groups, all battling for one trophy. The long-awaited Euro 2020 is here at last upon us. The fans might not be within touching distance,
Good cross, Giroud attacks it and scores, and France are ahead.
but the atmosphere will only get to a fever pitch. From the 11th of June to the 11th of July, catch the tackles, the goals, and all your favorite football stars as the elite European nations go head-to-head. The Standard Group brings you the UEFA Euro 2020 tournament live across our channel. As the official UEFA Euro 2020 free-to-air broadcast partner in Kenya, because we live for the game. And that's why at Standard Group, sports lives here.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, 10 minutes to 7. More and more headlines, and as we do that, today in history, that is the 13th of May, in 1991, President Daniel Arap Moi appointed Amos Tsitsilwa Wako as the Attorney General, replacing embattled Justice Matthew Guy Muli, who was moved to the Court of Appeal as a judge. Amos Wako became Attorney General on this day in 1991, went on to become the longest-serving Attorney General in the Republic, holding that position for 20 years. History.
Repeating itself. Okay.
Kinda.
So, the family of embattled Wajir Governor Mohammed Abdi Mohammed was yesterday placed at the heart of the alleged irregular multi-million shillings contract that had formed the basis of his impeachment. Mohammed's wife, Khaire Omar Malim, daughter Faria Mohammed Abdi, and son, Yusuf Mohammed, had been linked to several tenders entered by the county government in which the taxpayers could have lost millions of shillings. Submissions by the Assembly show with a withdrawal of 8 million shillings from the county revolving fund that was made to allegedly finance a fashion show for the governor's daughter at the Kenyatta International Convention Centre. The Assembly also tried to link several companies to the family, with the governor's wife thought to have received money deposits from directors of some of the firms trading with the county government. A request by Senior Counsel Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi, who is representing the County Assembly, to have the 3 family members appear before the Senate was, however, declined. And he claimed, now Ahmed Nasir, claimed Khaire had played a monumental role in the degradation of good governance in the county. And so basically what he said is that they're telling you that a governor can commit all offences with his wife and children, but cannot be called to account. Will we hide under the cover of wife and children? They are telling you that a governor can commit all offences with his wife and children, but cannot be called to account. Will we hide under the cover of wife and children?
We saw how that turned out for the former governor of Kiambu, didn't we? Mm-hmm.
So, the county assembly had wanted the governor's wife to be summoned to come and give evidence, but the committee said, okay, no, you guys cannot use your evidence before the committee without having to bring them here for cross-examination. The governor himself says, I would like to categorically state that I will fully cooperate with the committee and assist in establishing the truth. I am optimistic that this committee will finally bring to an end the trumped-up charges aimed at my person, character and integrity. Today is the day that he responds. One thing that I found interesting in this, remember the last impeachment hearing that was before the Senate was for Kirinyaga County. The lawyer representing the Kirinyaga governor was Mr. Paul Nyamodi. The lawyer representing the Kirinyaga County Assembly was Mr. Wajir. Yesterday, the lawyers representing the governor of Wajir were Mr. Paul Nyamodi and Mr. Wajir. Interesting, isn't it? They have experience appearing before the Senate and arguing the case.
They have.
The governor of Wajir has got, 2 big ones to go against Nasir Abdullahi.
The question I have to ask myself is, when it comes to providing legal service in this country, beyond just legal knowledge of the terrain in which they are functioning in, what other talents do they have? Let me be a little bit more explicit.
What other talents?
Yes, they do. You see, there are people who, beyond just lawyering, have a way of finding consensus in issues. Meaning, they can point out to the various interests that you all have and bring them to some commonality and say, folks, perhaps we need to look at this thing this way. All right?
In a different way.
Yes. Remember, this very same Mr. Nyamodi has been a lawyer for the IEBC as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, now IEBC is a pit full of vipers.
Yes.
So for you to survive in that particular pit, one could argue that Mr. Nyamodi is a snake handler.
Wow. Whoa.
Yes.
Rich city.
Yeah. So if we're talking about them choosing somebody...
There is a venom harvester.
Yes. Yes. Who has had a good... Well, has ample experience in these matters that involve our counties and the Senate, because anything with IEBC, believe me, involves the whole country. Yeah, so,
Okay.
I would just mention that.
So today's the day that the House will vet CJ nominee Martha Koome. The National Assembly Justice and Legal Affairs Committee will vet Lady Justice Martha Koome for the position of Chief Justice. It's chaired by Kangama MP Muturi Kigano. They'll cross-examine the judge on her suitability to head the judiciary. Of course, she was nominated by the JSC and approved by President Uhuru Kenyatta, who now handed it over to Parliament. So he asked that Justin Muturi fast-track the vetting and attach the documents that were needed for this to be done. The committee will write a report after vetting the judge and table it in the National Assembly. It was submitted in lines with the provisions of Article 166 of the Constitution, which provides, and I quote, "The President shall appoint the Chief Justice and the Deputy Chief Justice in accordance with the recommendation of the Judicial Service Commission and subject to the approval of the National Assembly." All right, so some of the issues that she's likely to respond to include an affidavit by the Law Society of Kenya President, L. Nelson Havi. From the submissions, Havi questions Kome's handling of 3 cases, arguing she was influenced by nepotism and favoritism.
Okay. Well, let's see. Parliament should play its part nicely. There's some interesting news here. KenGen, Kenya Electricity Generating Company, is about to embark geothermal drilling, not in the country, but in Djibouti. Mm-hmm. So they want a contract to go and help the Djiboutians get geothermal, a $6.45 million contract. So the 700 million shilling project was awarded to KenGen 3 months ago following an agreement with the Djiboutian Office of Geothermal Energy Development. It involves the drilling of 2 geothermal wells in Lake Assal region. Interesting one.
I think so. It's good business.
It's good business for KenGen.
Remember there was a time when Safaricom wanted to do business in Ethiopia.
In Ethiopia, yes.
Well, it looks like things are looking up for Safaricom.
Mm-hmm.
The Ethiopian government has decided that they're going to open up competition from next May. So that foreign firms can freely battle with state-run Ethiopia Telecom.
It's interesting because just in March they said no.
Yes.
Yeah. Just in March they said absolutely not. Yes. We're not allowing you in.
This is May. Yes.
So they're saying next May or this May?
So this May they've made a decision for next May.
Yes, exactly. Meaning but if you're going to allow in competition, surely you need a framework within which to allow them. So you give yourselves time to set
up that framework.
Yes. According to this report, it means Ethiopia will have M-Pesa.
That's exactly what you're saying.
So you can send money to Ethiopia.
And receive money from Ethiopia. You probably you can now.
Now this time it'll be M-Pesa to M-Pesa.
Yes.
Not to some platform, right? Okay. Keep it right here for more headlines in the papers and more stories that we want to look at today. Eid Mubarak to everybody who is celebrating the end of Ramadan today. Very many Muslims are celebrating that today and others will be celebrating it tomorrow. So for those that are celebrating it today, congratulations and Eid Mubarak. Have a lovely one. Kenya's biggest conversation continues into the next hour. We always enjoy when you join the conversation on SpiceFM KE, on YouTube, on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. That's the handle for all of those, SpiceFM KE. We are also live streaming on that. And also, if you are tuned in wherever you are this morning, you can call us 0719-012-600. Our SMS number, which you can send an SMS at any particular point, is 40127. That's 40127. Good morning, 8:07 a.m.
Spice up your life.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Assetto. We yesterday recorded a positivity rate of 10.8% from 410 new infections tested in a sample size of 3,799. This brings the total number of confirmed infections to 164,386 and the total number of tests conducted to over 1.7 million. There are 393 Kenyans and 17 foreigners among the cases. 253 are males and 157 are females. Nairobi Metropolitan Services Director General Mohamed Badi, together with the Governor's Office, have launched the first blood collection center in Nairobi metropolitan area. The smart bank located at Mama Lucy Hospital was made possible through a partnership with Life Bank and Kenyan National Blood Transfusion Services. Badi said that NMS is committed to setting up more blood collection centers and with partners aiming to improve blood sustainability. The national government intends to address hunger and climate change in Makueni and Kitui counties by ensuring the construction of the Twake Dam is completed on time. Devolution CS Eugene Omalo said this during the planting of 2 million seedling operation in Makueni County as one of the ways to improve the environment. Makueni Governor Kivuta Kibwana has called on the government to allocate sufficient funds to assist the county in projects to improve the environment and climate following the effects of climate change. Political temperatures are expected to start rising in the country following various activities expected soon. The first task is constitutional amendment process, where it is expected that after President Uhuru Kenyatta is handed over the bill passed in Parliament, he will submit it to the IEBC to hold a referendum in less than 90 days. Similarly, Bonchari by-elections are expected to take place on Tuesday next week, with the Jubilee Party having been blamed already for planning to steal the elections. The Director of Public Prosecutions has asked the court to dismiss an appeal by Sirisia MP John Waluke. The prosecution argues that the sentences for the MP and businesswoman Grace Wahungu were lawful and fair. This, the prosecution says, is because they were given the option of a non-custodial sentence in terms of the fine upon consideration of all the circumstances of the case. The United States track and field team has cancelled its pre-Olympics training camp in Japan out of concerns for safety amid the COVID-19 pandemic. The move has raised more questions about the eventuality of the Games, with mixed opinions rising over holding the biggest sporting event amid the global pandemic. The team was set to train in Chiba, the prefecture neighboring Tokyo, leading up to the Summer Games. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
Juja. It's not just jam, but there's wildlife as well. So in the sub-county of Juja, there's a hippo. I'm not kidding. There's a hippo that's roaming wild in a large field this morning, and folks are wondering, KWS needs to get on this one and get that out of the way. That's a problem there. We're already seeing traffic on Thika Road. We're seeing traffic on Mombasa Road. Things are already hot and heavy this morning, and we're likely to see the drizzle come back. So, it looks like another day like that. Folks were out on the road as early as 3:30 today. Mombasa Road is already jam-packed from the Weybridge out towards General Motors. People were using the ICD route. That now is jam-packed, and everybody has come there. Where we had 2 lanes, we now have 4. So it's already a mishmash, guys. Coming off of Thika Road into the city, Kiambu Road jam-packed. Getting to the Muthaiga Square and then to the Pangani underpass, that ain't happening either. So today is that day. Omo, it's thick. I don't even know how to say it beyond that. I don't.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start
5 minutes
your
after
day.
7, Kenya's biggest conversation continues. How are you doing? Welcome to the second hour of the show. Eid Mubarak to everybody celebrating the end of Ramadan today. C.T. Muga, today's proverb.
Indeed. One who causes misfortune also teaches wisdom.
One who causes misfortune also teaches wisdom.
Yes.
Double-edged sword.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you take the wisdom from the misfortune, or do they happen?
Well, in the
separate
process
events?
of encountering and dealing with the misfortune, you do acquire
lessons.
Yes, you do. You because it's called survival. In the process of learning how to survive with the misfortune, you are actually learning. Yes.
So you can say the same of, for example, COVID-19.
Yes.
Brought in misfortune, but lessons to learn.
Yes. The thing that I love about COVID is that it has laid bare the underbelly of the misdeeds of our government. Bare. I mean, there's no issue about it. I was looking at one of the articles that are in the Star, and what I found amazing was the Auditor General, in her usual detailed manner, came to an understanding that with some of the delayed payments we've made to foreign loans, we've actually paid in excess of what we're supposed to pay by 76 billion.
Intentionally?
Yes.
Oh, you said that again, City. I didn't understand.
When you have a debt to pay and you delay in paying it, you incur costs.
Penalties.
Yes, those penalties have amounted to 76 billion.
For which loans?
Foreign loans that we have taken.
Which ones in particular? There are those that we've been given some reprieve.
Yes.
Until June.
Yes.
So are you saying we are, like defaulting in some?
Treasury bonds, foreign loans, not just one thing. Monies that we owe. If, let's say, for instance, we have taken a loan or we have ensured that we've been funded by, say, a bank. Because our government was funded by banks. They sold their bonds, they sold their securities. Now, when time comes for you to pay out and you do not pay, it's not complicated. There's interest. There's additional interest, there are penalties. If you look at all these things, this article was not specific as to which specific country and which bank, but looking at it in totality, those are the amounts that was
76 billion in a span of how long? This is a month, a year, or what?
Yes. Now, this is not even 2020, 2021. This is 2018, 2019.
So in the financial year 2018, 2019,
yes,
we incurred some interest and penalties.
Yes.
76 billion.
To the tune of 76 billion.
Yep.
Now, how much are we repaying in all the debts that we had taken that time?
What?
800 billion shillings?
I think we were approaching $1 trillion
But
time, but we're far away. No, they don't indicate how much we owed then. But if we know
how
what
much
we owe
were
now,
repaying.
Yes, what we're supposed to pay, we know that we pay close to $1 trillion.
Yes.
Okay, 2 years ago, we're paying slightly less than that. So between 700 to 800 billion. So we're saying 76 billion of that was money we did not need to pay. I give this as an example. All I'm saying is that the things that, remember, this is coming out of the proverb. It's a difficult time, we have problems, but because of the need for healthcare, remember I gave the example of the UN-funded facility at Nairobi Hospital, which cost 1 billion shillings. And I give you details of what it has, the number of ICU beds, the bed capacities, at 1 billion shillings. Every time I come across a billion, an amount that is beyond 1 billion, for this one here, those are 76 hospital units. In my mind, I'm just counting 76 units. And I'm thinking, yes, this is what we have lost.
It would be interesting to understand why or how we got there. Was it a cash flow issue? Was it that by the time this loan is due? Because loans are fast charged from the consolidated fund. Money comes in, first thing that it does is it pays out the loans. So by the time you're getting to a point where you have not paid out a loan on its due date, you have not made an installment payment on its due date, then the question will arise. How?
That is how
Or are we talking about not just the National Treasury, but also some state corporations? Maybe a state corporation had taken some money somewhere.
Let me put it this way. There is what the government tells us they do when it comes to the payment of loans and lay down procedures and structures within which these monies are paid. If the Auditor General presents something and it's reported, I think what we're doing is the right thing. We are querying it and asking the right questions. And perhaps this is a discussion we can have later and bring in some of these tax experts to explain to us how it is that we are able to actually accrue penalties on debts that we, as far as we understand, we've been paying. Because every time we're told we're paying this amount, in my mind, we have paid it. When we're told it's $1 trillion, in my mind, we have paid it.
Yes.
That's why we keep having this debate. We're collecting 1.5 billion, $1 trillion, and so $1 trillion goes to paying debt, so we're only remaining with this. That's where the arithmetic. So if we aren't paying when we should, then what are we doing with the money?
Yes, so what's happening and how come?
Yes, because we've understood that we collect that money. What are we doing with it? Why are there some loopholes in this? It is indeed a valid question.
It would be interesting to understand that report. Yeah.
Okay, so a few things have gone through my mind over the last 24 hours as we've been looking at what happened on the roads yesterday and what is likely to continue happening so long as it's raining and so long as this construction takes place in different parts of the city. Construction that has been laying in wait for the last 10, 15 years has never finished and now is being compounded by weather and then construction matters. And as we left the studios yesterday, I had a brief conversation, and she said, but we protested. We talked about, because when we spoke about the road and we said that it was the expressway perhaps was not necessary at this time and that there were other things that needed to be done in the country. And then one of the callers said to us yesterday, we protested, but we did not protest enough. We protested for 2 days and then that's how it ended. It seems to be the way in which things are done, that something comes up, there is an issue, corruption today, healthcare tomorrow, problem with education here and there, and then there's a little bit of noise that's made. There are those who are locked on the roads because of curfew, and then we shout about it for 24 hours, and then after that, it's forgotten about. Another thing struck me yesterday was we had this conversation with CS Farida Karane, and she said that they're coming to the end of a process whereby they had invited public participation. So it's not as though they're doing anything on their own volition, but they're actually getting the buy-in from the will of the people. How much are people really invested in what is taking place in this country? Or is it just a moment to shout about it, where a lot of people have called entitled middle class who want to talk about it on social media just for a little bit and shout about it when it is convenient and then thereafter say nothing. And then things continue to tumble and spiral out of control and there's nothing that can be done. How much are Kenyans actually willing to participate in these processes that could actually bring about change? Because those who make noise about it, whether they're in civil society or wherever they are, sometimes are titled as madmen or women because they make a lot of noise and people after sometimes say, what is this one shouting about? They're actually not making a dent in any kind of progress. But I see that if you had a collective participation, consistent and constant over time, that it could actually bring about some kind of change. Yesterday, for example, there was terrible traffic. People suffered, got home at midnight, and then had to wake up again at 4. And these are issues that actually can be spoken of. There are people in this country every day who continue to suffer because of a dilapidated health system. So when KEMSA scandal comes about, MES scandal comes about, we talk about it a little bit, and then it's out the window. There are people who road to market has disappeared completely because it has not been maintained, has not been taken care of. We see it in the news one day, we tout about it, and then it's forgotten about. How much of an impact would it have if there was a consistent and constant reminding to those who sit in positions where something can be done, could be brought about if we took it seriously, beyond just getting on social media, hiding behind the comfort of a keyboard, and actually not being involved in asking for change in the process. From where I'm sitting, the only way some kind of change can come about is if those in positions of power are made so uncomfortable because they know that people are not going to take it sitting down. And I think that it's time that we go beyond this 24-hour bickering and make it constant, and not just bickering, but being involved in the process of change. Otherwise, it is not going to happen. And that's my thing today, that it can't just be that we are uncomfortable for 24 hours. It has to be that you're making it so uncomfortable for the person who sits in that position that they must do something. That, look, you know what? They must just then do their jobs. And we can look across sector, whether you're looking at the expressway, whether you're looking at healthcare, whether you're looking at infrastructure and roads, whether you're looking at education, whether you're looking at corruption, whether you're looking at the cost of living in this country, every day, prices rising and falling, whether you're looking at national debt, that for which Kenyans have to pay more taxes in the coming year, whether you're looking at a budget that is clearly obvious that country is not going to be able to afford, whatever it is that is going to have a direct impact on the lives of Kenyans tomorrow, you must be involved in it today. And that's what I'm saying. It cannot be a Twitter war. It cannot be a social media mention every now and then. It has to be clear, direct participation. Otherwise, we'll be complaining for centuries. And that's what I'm saying, that you've got to need to be involved in the process. Otherwise, this democracy that we are talking about, it goes nowhere.
Well, I think that comes from, why is it that people don't really want to actually actively participate beyond tweeting and beyond ranting and raving and beyond, because platforms, chat forums, I mean, the country is awash with them. And that's where most of the conversations seem to take place. When we talk about, say, public participation, for instance, say with the BBI, there were protests again on Twitter and what have you, but when the BBI came to your county, for instance, and you didn't like the way these things were conducted,
did you go?
Yeah, that's precisely it. Because I don't think that the moment more than 10 people know something, it is not a secret. On the day in which that meeting was supposed to be held, it is not a secret. So if you are opposed to something or you don't like it, what prevents you from actually going and saying, excuse me, as a citizen of this particular place, I believe the law allows me to say my piece, and this is what I want to say. What is it that prevents our people from doing that? But let me take this argument a little sideways and ask the question. When we talk about the terrible habits of the drivers, it used to be matatus. It's no longer just matatus. You are on the road, a part of the road that's supposed to be a sidewalk, people start driving on it. And before you know it, as a caller mentioned yesterday, you have 4 lanes where the road actually allows for 2 lanes. Okay? What is it about this need to be in this great hurry, as though the people who are ahead of you don't want to go, don't want to get to their destination? It is clear that there will be a gridlock if everybody does that. And yet people still join in. What is it? What is it that prevents people from saying, look, because clearly those who are keeping to their lanes are people who've decided, look, I am not overlapping. I'm willing to keep to this lane and I'm going to continue. You know what is strange? When you talk about the 2 lanes, the people on the 2 lanes usually are the ones who got there first. Okay? The ones who form the 3rd and 4th lane come after. Which means wherever they came from, they started later than these other fellows.
Yeah.
So there are people who actually want to stick by what it is that they want to do. But that's not what I'm saying. Why don't you stop people from doing that very same thing? Or we think it is the police's job. When we were getting vaccinated, I went to Mbagathi. I saw something similar. Somebody decides that they're more important and they're in a bigger hurry than everybody else. And they literally just cut in. Literally cut in. I remember there was a lady in front of me. I like that lady. She said, excuse me, we are all queuing here. Could you please respect us and just wait like everybody else? What I saw, and I saw fascinating, was this person seemed shocked. It's like it hadn't occurred to them that it was necessary for them to queue. That was registration. When we went for the vaccination, I saw somebody else doing the same thing. This time it was my turn to participate and tell him, could you please go to the back of the line like everybody else? Okay. Now, I'm saying this because as you're speaking, I was thinking, but everyone who's in line with me kept quiet. They were allowing this person to just cross, and I'm thinking, why are you allowing this person to cross? And I said, please go back like everybody says. Oh, I was here. I said, I've been here when it started a while back. I didn't see you. Please go back. Yes. Please. If there's somebody older than I, by all means, bring them and they can actually get the vaccination. But what is it about us that allows us or that prevents us from even just standing up and saying, look, I'm not going to put up with this?
From participating, because that's it. Yes. And you're participating in a process moving towards something for right. So why keep silent? Because it's uncomfortable. And you want things to change, right? You want things to be better. You want to get rid of some of the ills and vices that we see in society. But then that's where it really does start, right? At the very granular. In the situations whereby you're faced on a daily basis, how well are we actually participating? It doesn't take something huge like a volcano eruption for you to say, I'm going to participate.
Or to demonstrate in the streets, no?
Or to demonstrate in the streets, right. The changes that you're looking for, the little itty-bitty changes that you see on a daily basis, and then those are the ones that start to form into this bubble before you have things now boiling. But then why are we comfortable in a non-participatory effort beyond shouting from the comfort of our homes? One of the activists that we know in Nairobi during this time where people were held on the streets during the curfew, he said, you know what, people are now calling for revolution. I can bet you nobody's going out into the streets. Nobody will go. It's easy to talk about it, but to actually do it. something like public participation. Look at the land issue that affects so many people. It would be interesting to know from the Ministry of Lands how many people who are actually affected attended these public participation sessions.
You know, we talk about public participation all the time, and we seem to structure it in certain ways in which we say that public participation is when you physically appear for a meeting. But I don't think that's necessarily it. As long as you're participating in a conversation, you are actually contributing to it. If we talk about people are going onto social media and raising their voice and saying, this is what I think about something, that already indicates to you that somebody has a feeling about, an opinion about something that's happening to them, that's affecting them, and they are voicing it and they're expressing it. When the platform that they find, this is available for me and I can participate in it. There are those who want to participate a little bit extra by appearing, by attending meetings. And I think that people are willing to participate in many of these things. They participate in their own way. They participate by contributing on social media. They participate by contributing when they are called for a meeting. They participate by turning up when they are called for a meeting. I think what maybe you can say there are several areas of breakdown are the organization bit. Because it all calls about, when you call something a movement, it means that it has been organized and you find that this is a platform where I can join and I know that my participation will add some value. My participation will make a change. The lack of that is what makes people participate in whatever forum that they find available. If sitting at a shop and joining other people to participate and to contribute to conversations is what I find available, I participate there. Go to a kinyozi and that's where you find people having conversations, that's participation. To a pub, you find people having conversations, that's participation. We talk about having all these barazas everywhere. You know, just a small grouping of people just appears and people start having conversations. You go to any grouping, you know, maybe people are meeting for some unrelated event. It's a ratio. And just one person raises an issue. Hey, so who's your MP?
What is a ratio?
Those the traditional weddings rights, right? Mm-hmm. Traditional marriage rights, right? So they have appeared into one. They've just appeared for any sort of meeting somewhere, and somebody just asked the question, hey, so who is your leader here? And you hear the various opinions that are brought out in that forum. People participating. People don't walk away. People don't keep quiet. They actually contribute. It tells you that people are willing to participate. It is the various fora that they haven't found. And it's not, everybody does not take up a leadership role. There are those who take up leadership roles. There are those who are willing to follow. We've even talked about issues here where callers have said, actually, now that I'm hearing Cherotich saying this, I'm saying I am willing to contribute. My participation will be, I am willing to contribute something so that she can continue doing what she's doing. That is participation. I think people are willing to participate. It is those who have the ability and the capacity and the spirit to organize that need to understand the various ways in which they can get people to participate.
I think they're willing to participate in things that they consider comfortable and within a sphere of comfort, that anything that puts them out of the comfort zone, people will not be willing to participate. That's my view. Meaning that so long as it is on Twitter and I am certain that the police won't come knocking at my door when I say the nasty things that I've been saying on tweet, I'll continue tweeting. If I thought they would, I wouldn't. Now, something that I'm referring to as nasty may actually be the absolute truth. Not necessarily meant to be offensive. But if I think that that truth will get me, as we say, into trouble, I will not say it. Sometimes, you see, the process of bringing about change is something that any grown-up in this country undertakes. And it's something that children also participate in. It's called going to school or ensuring somebody goes to school. The hours that children need to wake up in order to be in school involves sacrifice. That is going out of your way. Parents will take loans upon loans upon loans and sell so that the children go to school. That is people putting their hearts and minds or the money where their mouth is. We see it. because they expect to see some change and they're willing to take those steps. I'm saying it's not as though they don't participate. Those are things that they participate in because it's things that are dear to their hearts and they can understand and see. They have a clear picture of what they'd like to see. But what we're talking about, things that then involve the larger community. Say, for instance, this road that we've been complaining about, this horrible, terrible road that is giving us nightmares. We rant and rave here, but you see, I wish I could find an alternate route to follow to come to work. Maybe I should follow the example that somebody said. Maybe I should drive to Dar es Salaam first, okay? Via some bypass, and then whatever it is, the process of ensuring that you actually speak out in whatever forum, as you put it, that you can about the things that you want. Yes, it's something that we don't do well. We don't like sticking our necks out.
I think, City, not all public participation is confrontational. Not all public participation is.
You introduced the word confrontational?
Yes.
I didn't.
No, I'm saying not all of it is confrontational. The issue where you're thinking about police then coming and clubbing you. For example, the conversation about land and participation on land. So yes, you're saying how many people participated, how many people are aware of it. When the Constitution introduces issue of public participation and broadens even the areas of participation and says, including ICT platforms, it's with the understanding that I want to participate, but I don't necessarily have to come face to face and sit down. I can contribute in many other ways. People are willing to participate. That's what I believe. The thing is, if, for example, you had opened up a platform and said, this is what we're talking about. We want to digitize land. And this is where you can bring your ideas. We can organize with the residents' associations where, as residents' associations, you raise your issues within the residents' associations. People would know, people can participate at the residents' associations. How many residents' associations knew about the changes in land and that they were required to even participate or to contribute? We are in the budget-making cycle right now. How many people have participated in just conversations about budget? You see,
Eric, I'll take it further.
I could actually, if there was a platform where people were told, all right, so this is what we are thinking about budget. This is what we are going, what we want to do. People would contribute.
So are you saying that people are willing in their minds to contribute or to participate in a lot of these issues, right? But you're saying that the problem is that there lacks platforms upon which they can, or there lacks somebody who's going to come and
lead,
bring all these people together. And then if you have somebody who is leading you, then people would participate?
Yes.
I'm saying they're not willing to do anything that moves
outside
them out of
uncomfortability.
Yes.
Nobody ever wants to do anything that moves them out of their comfort zone.
Actually, they do.
If it is not directly impacting their comfort. Like you said, when people are told this is something that matters to us, when people complain about a school head and there are parents in that particular school, they are willing to come out early and participate and say, get the school head out. Right?
Yes, they are.
But there is always somebody who takes the point. Somebody who takes the lead and says, guys, no. And people say, oh, so and so is saying, we will turn up.
You see, the point that you're making is a valid one.
And the issue here is, where are we turning? So we shall meet on this place, we shall do this, we shall do the other. When you have a meeting for your local school where you chair the board, and you say, we want to have a parents' meeting, parents turn up.
They do.
They do. Because they understand this is something that matters to me, and a platform has been given.
Let me give it context. The mothers of the children turn up. A few fathers turn up.
Yes.
Because to say parents turn up would actually be false. It's more, you see more mothers than you see fathers.
Yes, everywhere, even in Nairobi and many other places, you'll see the mothers will turn up.
Yes.
But the thing is, when they go back home, they have a conversation as the family unit. This is what is happening.
I would like to hope and wish that is the case. The other day we were talking to Karaoke in Nakuru, and there's something he said with regards to the MP, an MP that he didn't hold in very high esteem. And he raised a question, okay? When I played that scenario in my head, the thing that came to my mind, he was thrown out of that meeting. Nobody seemed to protest. But I'm certain that if you had asked those people, many of them, there are many who would have felt exactly the way Kariuki felt. Would have asked probably the same question.
Same questions.
But when Kariuki was ejected, Kariuki led. He said, no, Mheshimiwa, instead of giving people money, could you not have out? Okay. So what did that say? Is it that the people who were, because he wasn't alone, did they side with the member of parliament?
Or did they also keep quiet when they realized that they could be kicked out as well?
Or, yes, is it this thing we have with regard to anybody we think is in some sort of leadership? We don't question them. And this is the thing. Leadership which doesn't have active and fruitful engagement.
It's not leadership.
You can't be leading because you don't get feedback. That engagement is feedback. Kariuki gave feedback. He got ejected. Now, if other people had joined and said, Mheshimiwa, if Kariuki is going, we're also leaving, he would have had time to think and realize, okay, folks, can we have a different discussion?
But from what he was saying is that other people then kept quiet because they did not want the same action then to be meted out on them.
That's why I brought in the issue of the police.
It's an approach issue.
Okay.
It's an approach issue. There are times when you participate, yes, you're thinking the same way, but the approach that's being taken by this person who's being very vocal, you feel this is not the approach I'd take.
As a leader, because you're talking to a leader. He's a leader, they're a leader.
No, I'm not talking about the leader. I'm talking about the other participants in the meeting. So you keep quiet. You agree with the point. You don't agree with the approach.
Then say it.
When he leaves, you continue, but bring out the point in the approach that you want.
That hardly ever happens. In an ideal world, it would, but in reality, no. What it tells me is that many of them were not willing to offend the Mheshimiwa, because that's what they saw. The comment about the question was considered an offense. Remember, we have a culture where it is offensive to question leader.
It is true.
And that's why I'm saying it's an approach. It's not that they did not feel that, yes, there could have been a better way of you spending this money. They also probably felt that there could have been a better way of raising this particular issue. Both are valid points.
But they went unsaid. That's the thing.
We don't know whether they went
unsaid. If it wasn't said,
not in the presence of Kariuki, but we do not know whether they went unsaid.
But what did he say? That they did not get any kind of change about, and things about that conversation went dead.
Yes.
He told us that within
So
the same forums, which means that it was not brought up.
It does not mean that it was not said.
Things went back to the way they were before. It would appear as though he was the only one who was opening his mouth to challenge what was in front of him.
It does not mean that it was not raised.
It appears that way.
It appears that way. Of course, we were not there, so we cannot say whether somebody else came up and spoke about it, whether somebody else was kicked out.
In a different way.
We don't know that.
Whether someone else has raised that issue in a different forum, in a different way. We don't know that. But there's a likelihood.
That forum
Let's just take a break.
To do it.
Let's just take a break. Let's just take a break, though. At 26 minutes to 8 o'clock, the conversation we're having is the issue of public participation. Are Kenyans willing to participate on issues of governance, or are they not? Are we just comfortable? Are we sitting comfortably in our comfort zones and not willing to participate? Or do you think Kenyans are willing to participate? Are they participating? 26 to 8. Time for a break. We'll be back shortly.
"24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Mother's Day is coming up, and Naivas Supermarket is here to celebrate it with a Naivas mom. Just like moms, we are resilient, readily available, and always here to serve you. With over 71 fully stocked outlets countrywide and pocket-friendly prices to match all your household shopping needs, we endeavor to make the motherhood journey a little easier. We have Naivas shopping vouchers for a Naivas mom everywhere, as we have been inspired by moms for 30 years. A Naivas mom is a well-taken care of mom. Naivas saves you money.
It's time to answer questions that are worthwhile. The Big Quiz Show is here. Register to play from the comfort of your home by SMSing the word JOIN to 23774. Then watch the live show on KTN every Sunday from 8 p.m. where you could have a chance to win a melee. The fastest and most accurate answers are guaranteed to win. The Big Quiz Show, Sundays at 8 p.m. only on KTN.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo-soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
We've been all through it, you know. We go to school, study hard, get the much-deserved grades, and celebrate our graduation. Then reality hits us. We get to the job market and we simply don't know where to start off. Thankfully, by visiting jobs.standardmedia.co.ke, your next career breakthrough could be a click away. Get the best in career advice, employment opportunities, internships, part-time jobs, CV writing, and interview coaching. Give your career the much-needed lift on jobs.standardmedia.co.ke.
"24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
For many of us, home is a place where we find our inner peace. A place where we find the most comfort. A place where we recharge. A place where we create laughter and all the good memories. But most importantly, a place where we all belong. At KTN Home, we believe there is something for everyone. So catch all the comedy, telenovelas, Nollywood, music, sporting action, kids shows, documentaries, movies, dramas, and reality shows. All to make you and your family feel right at home. You can also stream live at www.standardmedia.co.ke/KTN Home/live on your favorite device. KTN, welcome home.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial *550*1# to read
All right,
the
so
Standard
it's coming down in some
paper.
parts of Nairobi. Mostly cloudy conditions, at least for now. 16 degrees. It'll go to highs of 22. 22 will be the high in Nyeri. Light rain at 15. And partly sunny conditions in Nakuru at 16. Going to highs of 24. 23 will be high in Eldoret. It's sunny this morning. Partly sunny conditions in Kisumu. High chance of rain later. 18 degrees going to highs of 27. 27 will also be the high in Kakamega. It's partly sunny at 18. Mostly sunny conditions in Mombasa at 26. Highs of 30. Highs of 30 also in Malindi. And currently at 26. It's mostly sunny in Kampala today at 20. Highs of 25. Highs of 30 in Dar es Salaam, where it's sunny at 23. Clear conditions in Joburg at 11, highs of 23 and lows of 8. We'll see highs of 32 in Lagos. It's mostly clear at 25 and also clear in Kinshasa at 24. Highs of 33 and lows of 24.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo-soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Okay, very bad accident on Gong Road this morning, just past the Prestige Mall. Unfortunately, that's a fatal one. And police on site to try and sort them out. But it is not a good one. Another accident on Ring Road today involving a school bus and a motorcycle, guys. So really, we need to be careful. Kitengela, anybody coming from Kitengela, going towards the interchange, out then towards Sabaki, Way Bridge, unago jam yourself outside right at the SGR. They move. I don't know how else to say it because this one I just have to revert to vernacular. They move. Jam. They everywhere. Out of Thika Road into the city as well. Strong thing. SpiceFM KE, Twitter. That's how you can get in touch. Text 40127. That's it.
Spice and everything nice. All right.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 98 94.4 Spice FM,
Okay,
Nairobi.
20 minutes to 8 o'clock. The conversation continues. Public participation. Are you willing to participate? Are you an active citizen? Does public participation mean that you turn up for meetings, you turn up for demonstrations, you contribute in whatever forum that you are in, and how much of that is happening in the society today? In Kenya, several comments on social media.
Yeah, quite some. All right. This according to Asetian, why should public participation have a leader-friendly approach? It sounds like suppression. Okay.
I'll respond to that shortly.
Okay. We are willing to participate, but there are no platforms and our activists are only on Twitter. We are even willing to go out to the streets, but no one is bringing people together. Another one, we are willing to talk, not to participate. The comfort zone we are in, we are not willing to get out of it. We seek alternatives and complain for a day because we have our private school, private hospitals, and private cars. Look at even COVID, when our private hospitals are full. That's the time that Twitter became a complaining zone. The problem with us, the tweeting nation. When the government doesn't provide quality services, we seek alternatives. We never confront the matters, education, transport, healthcare. That should be a government priority. We have to organize ourselves. Let's stop saying change is by voting. Only we have to be in a movement that can disrupt a political movement where our ideologies are spoken. Another one, on participation, the first thing is to ask people to participate. For example, I had never heard about Farida's issue. Have they asked? How? And how does something so important pass by without us knowing we should even participate? So two things there. One side, with some of these things we don't even know about, we're not aware. Another side is, look, these things are staring us in the face, but we don't talk about them because, you know what, I'm going to find an alternative. It's a little bit more comfortable for me to find the one that's going to sort out my need then and there, as opposed to now me joining other people. Let's come and talk, take it to parliament, walk on the streets. I get tired, beaten. Well, I'm not going to do that. I need to sort out my problem right now. Yes? I'm not going to get into any kind of communal activism because how is it helping me? You'd be surprised that is the thought of very many people.
So, okay. The question was to me, why the issue of a leader-friendly public participation? That's not necessarily what I'm saying. And this is with respect to, for example, Karaoke's attendance of a meeting with the Bahati MP. That's not necessarily what I'm saying, that it should be leader-friendly. What I'm saying is, and that's the truth, is there are people have different approaches and people have different preferred approaches to addressing an issue. There are those that will prefer a confrontational way. There are those that will prefer a more diplomatic way. And you see this all the time. Even in school, there's somebody who will stand up and say, why you did it? And then the others will say, okay, how about if we approach it this way? Let's form a small team. This small team will go and engage with the school head and they'll address the issue. Others will say, no, let's go and picket at the school and make noise and demand that things change. Different approaches. But all those are people who are participating. The fact that people attended that meeting that Karaoke was in means that they were willing to participate. The fact that people contribute even in WhatsApp groups and they raise their voice, they're willing to participate. The other day you were talking about the entire Twitter tirade on the World Bank, the IMF, and lending to Kenya. The fact that somebody is actually just going out there and saying they're willing to participate. What they want to see or to participate in is the next step. And not everybody has the wherewithal, the energy, the organizational capacity to organize and bring people together. But they're willing to participate when they see a leader emerge. When people are pouring out on Tahrir Square in Egypt, there was a leader. And people had been complaining on social media, in their own circles, in their own communities. When there was leadership and there was something, a structure into which they could contribute, they poured out onto the streets, onto Tahrir Square, and they were willing to stay there for a long time. This has happened in all those countries, even in Ukraine. It doesn't mean that the people in Ukraine are different. They have a different blood. No.
So what you're saying, essentially, is that everybody's just kind of waiting for that moment when one individual is going to strike the match and then everybody will join in this fire. That people have their opinions and the things that they're saying, whether it be in the comfort of their homes, behind the comfort of their keyboard. But all you're waiting for right now is that I can't lead, kind of waiting for somebody else to do, and then I will also join in the throngs of this.
I am willing to join if there's something I can join into. Right now,
if there's somebody who will start it, then I will join them.
I am joining the conversation in whatever platform it's on. Right now, the conversation is on Twitter. I am joining that conversation on Twitter.
Right
but
now,
there's a WhatsApp group that has been formed that discusses these issues. I join the WhatsApp group. I participate in the WhatsApp group.
Right, but then to take it to the next level, you're saying to take it to the next level where actually you can see some kind of, visible, tangible inroads being made, that somebody has to be the one to take it then from this platform to the next. And it is on then there that we will see people then joining.
Yes.
You see, there are people who are willing to talk and act to act out their beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
There are those who are willing to adjust to whatever discomforts they have until those discomforts become normal. So the issue of bringing about change, they don't bring about change, they change themselves. They adjust, and then this thing becomes something they can deal with, something they can cope with. Because they've adjusted and they figured this is the status quo, so be it. Okay? It may be uncomfortable, it may be unpleasant, but there it is. We see it every day. You think people want to be in a matatu that's already overflowing. No, they don't. But they will still board it because they know they need to get home. The greater problem is if you are not at home by the time that curfew begins, the problem that will await you is greater. So you would rather put your life at risk.
It's a difficult position to be in it, if you think about it, right?
But these things are never easy. That's why I'm giving this example.
Yeah.
I spent many years of my life living in Mombasa, and I still remember one of the things that I found particularly interesting when Kenya bus services were slowly sort of like dying off. Okay? And matatus came into being. That is the one town where a matatu would stop, someone would look inside and tell you, imeja. Or, if it wasn't full, they would ask you, iko na mziki. If it didn't, they'll tell you, endelea tu. Okay? But they were not going to board a matatu that was already full. They were not. That was then. It was a long time ago. People said, they like their comfort. Actually, yes, they do. The people who made that vehicle made it to carry a certain number of people. That's how, those are the specs. Now, right now, I don't think anybody cares. So long as, if your head can go in, it means the rest of your body can follow. Yes. So you put in your head the space. There were matatus that used to come from Thika, express to Nairobi when I was still a student. And the thing I found interesting was how the human body can create space. I've always been fascinated. You didn't stand. Everybody sat. But you'd sit 5 of you. 5. Meaning you fill the back seat, then the next, then the next. It doesn't stop anywhere. Stops in Nairobi. When it stops,
you unfold yourself.
Forget unfolding. Blood circulation cut off. You have to massage your leg in order to be able to get it to move. Okay? But you sat. You cannot say you did not sit. What am I saying? I am saying there is the capacity that we have for adjusting situations, but there is also the capacity we have for saying, look, I am not going to put up. And that's an individual decision. It's not even a group decision. I don't have to wait for the group to decide. I can decide, no, I am not going to do this. Now, the problem is the consequences that will follow that decision. Am I willing to bear it?
And what's your ability to mobilize? Because if you do it by yourself and it doesn't bring in any change, then you sort of are left in a disadvantaged position.
Yes.
Those who are able to mobilize others to join them, then move things. Same example that you've given of public transport, right? So people would conform with whatever kind of manner we were receiving and kind of treatment they were receiving from the public transport sector, the matatu sector.
Yes.
When Michuki said, look, this is the thing, this is what we're going to do, it did not matter what the unions were saying, the matatu owners and matatu welfare were saying. People said, no, we support Michuki.
Yes, they did.
It's because they were feeling it.
And they had been feeling it for some time.
They were feeling it for some time. They would complain. They would complain in matatus. You complain a little bit. You are insulted. You keep quiet. And then the day that comes, that there is an organized way in which this can actually bring about change, People participated in it.
And they walked.
Yes. When Boniface Mwangi and Irongo Houghton and the others organized for that demonstration at Langata Road Primary School, many people turned up.
Yeah, they did.
Not all those people were the first ones to organize it.
No.
It took Boniface and Irongo to actually say, on this day, at this time, let's turn up. People who were feeling, yes, this is an issue, turn up. Others who are feeling, yes, it's an issue, but I don't have the time and all, participate online and say, we support you, we are with you. So this protest was happening both on the ground and online. There were people who were saying, I agree that this school needs to be protected. That's why I'm saying public participation, it actually does happen in very many ways. It needs, if it's about, so the issue of traffic and congestion and Mombasa Road, and we need change, and it needs those who have the wherewithal, those who have been blessed with that gift of organizing to organize, and people will join. If somebody said, let's organize, when you see border people protesting, it is one of them who's their leader who says, guys, okay, tomorrow we are doing this. And the others say, yes, we will turn up. If you talk to all those 200 guys on the ground, 195 could not have said, let's turn up tomorrow, for one reason or the other. They don't have the confidence that they can bring out people, but they know, if you call me, I will turn up.
I hear what you're saying. And, I think for all of these things, whenever these conversations are being had, I can understand the need to rant and, bring things up to the surface. But then further than that, it is the absolute need to be pointed towards a solution. And I know that there are people like that you're talking about. And in this case, the wherewithal is not necessarily resources. But the wherewithal could be that you have that burning desire to get something done. It could be that maybe you have no idea what needs to be done, but you have a gift to rally people.
Yep.
And you know that this is a sentiment that people are feeling. And I think we're at the time where people who have this are many. I think that there are very many leaders who are sitting and actually not doing anything and need that moment whereby they can stand up and start to do something about it and to actually rally people together. Because if what you're saying is true, that people are looking for that match moment whereby somebody is going to light that match and say, come guys, let us talk about this. Let us be involved. Let us refuse. Let us make noise about this. And you're looking for somebody who's going to lead. Then maybe it's not time to call on people to come together. Maybe it is time to call upon those leaders and say, yes, come on, guys.
Organize us.
There are people who are waiting for you to just take the reins. Please do it, and people will follow. Because if the fire is there to see actual change, people who would otherwise be scared, people who would be uncomfortable, people who had tried before and were shut down. What do you think the highest reaction will be for somebody who has tried and been shut down? Do you think there's a high percentage of them trying again? They're probably not going to. So no way. I've tried. I'm not going to do it again.
When you look at other people's experiences, you're like, okay,
you say,
so and so
no
made noise.
way.
They turned out yesterday.
And look at what happened to them. I'm not going to do it.
Or also, they turned up. They went out there. We didn't see the result of what they were doing, and you feel.
But if there was somebody else, I would do it. If there was somebody else, I would join. It's time to take those things into consideration, guys, because the way in which things are going, the list that you can make of things whereby people ought to participate in and people ought to act against or act for, it grows by the day. It grows by the day. Just listen to the sentiments of Kenyans right now. Listen to what people are saying. People need that moment. People need that time, or people need, yes, that platform upon which they can come together and start to talk about these things. This thing is not going to the dogs. It has gone. It's already there. So yeah, it's perhaps that time where those people who have the wherewithal to bring people together need to step up to the plate.
They're called community mobilizers, and they are known. Barack Obama was a very good mobilizer. He's praised for that. He was mobilizing people within the communities to do something, to participate, and people were turning up. People were participating. We have the same across the country. You'll find people in various fora who are able to organize people and say, come, let's do this and the other. And people turn up. The example is given of how Makueni County has embraced public participation, but you'll find that there are people on the ground in the markets, in the shambas, who are called upon, guys, organize people, let's have this conversation. People turn up, people participate in those conversations. So I hear what you're saying, Ndu, that the issue is about public participation, and my thinking, my feeling, deep feeling is that Kenyans are participating. They are willing to participate in whatever forum. They just want to see, this is why I participate. I'll come in and participate.
And my feeling is that they're willing to participate in things
until a certain point.
Yes.
Once it gets uncomfortable.
If it's comfortable, yes. If it's within the boundaries that they can accommodate and live with happily, yes. But beyond that, no. They will not put themselves out on a limb.
And they don't have to.
Sometimes you do.
In order for you to see some kind of change, I think so.
They don't necessarily have to.
I think so.
Sometimes you do.
Sometimes you do.
Eric, listen to the conversation we had yesterday with the CS for Lands. With her team, I would argue they've gone out on a limb. They were given a directive, but they've gone out on a limb. Meaning, listening just the processes that they followed to get to where they were now, they're talking about it. That wasn't just business as usual. The other two ministers that we spoke of, one Charity Ngilu, one James Orengo, spoke about these things. We didn't get to where we are discussing this thing as we do. We just said, we're doing this, we're doing the other. The we are doing was clearly there. But this one, we've gotten to we have done. Now that's going out on a limb. And if I listen to what the minister was saying, this is not, it wasn't an easy process. It's still not an easy process, and it's still not going to be an easy process going forward.
Going at it.
Yes. Now that is what I mean.
That is committing.
Precisely. And that's what I'm saying. That's what can actually begin this process of real change.
That is committing.
The others, window dressing.
People will commit to certain extents, and there'll be different extents to which people can commit. So you'll find that you are willing to walk all the way to the door. I'll tell you, right, I'm willing to walk up to there. But that is my participation.
I am not downplaying.
When there are people who are fighting for independence, there are those that went to the forest, there are those who were not in the forest, there are those who are engaging in various other fora. It's about the method of approach.
It is. But if you give
everybody
independence
is committed.
as an example, all those people who were involved in that process went out on a limb.
They were committed.
Yes, they went out on a limb. Meaning, in the absence of that, the change you're talking about, in my view, will not come about.
And that's why I say, and that example actually still plays, there are those that will look back and say, only those who went to the bush, the Mau Mau, deserved more in terms of praise for their participation. Others were just making their noise here and there, spending 17 years in the UK. There are those who would argue that way. But if you look at all of them, there was commitment.
There was.
And I was willing to participate.
There was. And you're right, there was.
And then there were others who turned up on the day of independence, and they had played their own small roles here and there. There were those, the women that were cooking for the people in the bush. There were those that were helping. Very many people participate in various ways.
Eric, hearing you, are you saying that there are also those who are waiting for the opportunity? So their participation was to wait for the opportunity.
Yes. They participated in the process well.
They waited and then they participated in ensuring that they were part and parcel of the good things that came about.
Participate in the conversation. 0719-012-600 or SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. In the next hour, let's talk about the dairy sector. What are the opportunities? What are the challenges? How can we confront and deal with the challenges in making Kenya's dairy sector thrive? There are very many people who are basically engaged in this business on a daily basis. We'll be speaking to David Miner, an expert on the dairy sector, shortly. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room. It's now 8 a.m. Good morning.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. The government will roll out the second dose of COVID-19 vaccine beginning June. The Ministry of Health made the announcement even as it moved to assure Kenyans of the efficacy of the second dose of AstraZeneca vaccine, whose administration has been pushed to 12 weeks. The government has also committed to get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
The government is working with the African Union and has committed to secure 30 million doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine to enable Kenya to cover 60% of the adult population and thus attain herd immunity within a year.
The Justice and Legal Affairs Committee in Parliament is expected to question Chief Justice-elect Martha Koome to fill the post. Koome will be interviewed starting at 4 o'clock in the sessions expected to be chaired by Chairperson Muturi Kigano. Among the issues expected to arise during today's session is a complaint lodged by LSK President Nelson Havi. Havi complains about 3 court decisions handed down by Judge Martha Koome claiming they were biases. In the process of appointing the Chief Justice, the committee is expected to present its report to Parliament, and if approved, it will be submitted to President Uhuru Kenyatta for appointment.
First of all, looking at this constitution, it requires a reform-oriented Chief Justice who will be able to carry on that transformative agenda, that foundation that was laid by Chief Justice Willy Mutunga and has been transjected to the building blocks that Chief Justice Maraga has put in place.
The Jubilee Party has once again begun the process of taking action against lawmakers and senators accused of violating party rules. The party's National Executive Committee has ruled that the process is likely to see legislators close to William Ruto and his UDA party thrown out of Jubilee. Among those who will be re-examined are MPs Moses Kuria, nominated MP Cecil Mbarire, and Senator Millicent Omanga. Jubilee Party Deputy Chairperson David Murade has said that Kuria is disrespecting the Jubilee Party by supporting George Koimburi, who is not a Jubilee member.
With Moses Kuria, it's insolence. He's daring Jubilee Party. He's on the ground insulting the party and its leadership. He's on the ground campaigning against the party's candidate. I think the next step should be for us to kick Moses out of the party. Let us have a by-election in Gatundu South. Let him run on a PEP ticket. We will run a Jubilee candidate and let the people decide.
In an interview with KTN News, Murada said Omanga and Mbarire will be punished for voting against the 2020 Constitutional Amendment Bill, despite being aware of the party's
Omanga, who disparages the party and proudly goes out there swinging about how she feels she doesn't owe it to the party. And if we follow the due process and procedure, she will face the same fate as Senator Maura.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
Okay, that terrible accident on Gong Road is going to cause a lot of traffic today out towards the city mortuary roundabout. That is not moving, very, very slow. They're still trying to remove the vehicles from there. So this one is a bit of a mess, eh? From Syokimau to town, how are we looking like, guys? It's bad, eh? Ndoni. It looks like it's going to be there for some time. Through to General Motors, not moving very quickly, jam-packed. Kiambu Road, coming to the Thika Super Highway, also jam-packed, guys. It's like everywhere you look. Now jam, you go see. I won't take jam now. So we just have to sit in it for now, at least. We'll see what it looks like in a bit, okay? SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Talk to us there. Text us on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
5 minutes after 8, Kenya's biggest conversation enters the third hour. Eid Mubarak to everybody who is celebrating the end of Ramadan today. And those that will be celebrating tomorrow, we also wish you a fruitful conclusion of the month of fasting. CT, today's proverb.
Right. One who causes misfortune also teaches wisdom.
One who causes misfortune also teaches wisdom. That's true. Why are you laughing?
I'm not laughing.
Of course, you are not laughing.
I'm not laughing now.
Laughter is laughing itself.
I'm just showing my teeth and making a sound.
Why is your laughter coming out of you?
You know what is of interest? When you think of some of these sayings and proverbs, the questions that we sometimes ask are very apt, because you hear and you wonder, okay, proverb. And I realize my problem was, and probably still is to some degree, for me, a proverb almost needs to be cryptic. Then it's a proverb.
It needs to sound deep.
Yeah, it needs to sound profound, almost earth-shaking. And if it isn't, I'm wondering, is this really a proverb? Or is that a statement that someone made and now we're calling it a proverb?
Yeah.
But then I realized that we sometimes forget that all these proverbs in their variety served certain purposes. And sometimes those, as diversified as those proverbs were, so were the purposes for which they were intended. Yes. I mean, think of my favorite one that I remind myself with is a simple Kiswahili one. Akili ni mali.
Yeah.
Directly translated into English, brains are money.
Mali is money.
Wealth.
Ah, right. Okay. Okay.
Akili ni mali. And then there's the other one of nywele.
Kila mtu ana zake.
Okay. So a couple of days ago, we had a conversation, and this is on the 29th of April, if I get it right. Yes, we had a conversation on dairy farming in Kenya, and this is AgriTalk, promoting discourse on agriculture, food security, and agribusiness. And as we get into this conversation, a very good morning to everybody who's joining us on KTN. Home, you'll be with us until 9 a.m. So we talked about dairy farming in the country, and we looked at the numbers, and we were talking to expert David Miner, who's a dairy investment expert and also a lead consultant with an organization called Performer, the economics of dairy farming in Kenya. He gave us a couple of numbers. One, our per capita consumption in this country by 2010 was 110 liters per person consuming milk per year. And looking at our production as well, about 1 million farmers are in dairy farming, many of them smallholder farmers, producing about 5.2 billion liters of milk a year. And this is on everything: cows, goats, camels, sheep. But if you just go into cows, 4.2 billion liters of cow milk per year. This is a lot. And our consumption, per capita consumption, is very high. It's one of the highest in Africa, in the world as well. So we consume a lot of milk. That means that we are a very big market for our own milk. Now, how much does our milk cost if we compare it to the milk in other countries? How much does it cost us to produce the milk? How much does it cost us to supply milk? How much does it cost us to buy milk? Why is it that at some point we see like milk coming from neighboring countries? The other day we had a whole issue that even reached the president's desk, and he had to make a presidential declaration himself on the importation of powdered milk into the country. And people saying that milk, the brand of milk that was coming in from a neighboring country, was cheaper, was better, was all those things. Why would we say that food being produced in other regions, neighboring Kenya, would be cheaper than in Kenya? And when we had a conversation with David, we told him, okay, you have started giving us a lot of insights. We will invite you again so you can tell us a bit more about this. And he's on the line with us again this morning. David Miner, good morning and welcome to the Situation Room.
Hey, good morning, Eric, and Iti and Oko. Good morning to you all at the studio.
Good morning.
Yeah, nice to be here again.
Karibu sana.
Karibu sana. David, the last time you were telling us, you were just giving us the statistics and telling us, now look, if we look at what it basically means for a smallholder farmer to produce a liter of milk, it takes a lot. And you're telling us about the feeds, the 5 kilograms of Napier gas. I was taking notes, but that's why we left off. So we shall just pick it up from there. Let's go into what does it cost a smallholder farmer in this country to produce a liter of milk?
Yeah, thank you very much. I don't know whether you have an echo on your end.
Maybe on yours, we are good.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, I think we cut at a point where I was talking about the price of the cost of production coming very close to price, and therefore the cost curve, which is red, and the green curve, which is green, coming very, very close to each other, and then moving towards a trend where the red line is above the green line, and that is where we see that the sector is not viable. So we may not have a very groundbreaking news that dairy has collapsed, but it is a sector that would typically collapse very gradually. Just one person here and there, a big farm closing, farmers selling cows and being seen to sell equipment and so on. Now you know that the sector is collapsing. But in other countries, because the structure between farmers and government, the lobbies, and the government's involvement with the farmers is very mainstreamed, it becomes easier to know when the sector is collapsing than our kind of a context where a collapse would be gradual and sometimes not noticeable. So right now, the only indicator that is the strongest for us to know that we are not headed in a good direction is where we begin to see that we are producing less milk than what we need to consume. So that becomes a problem. So the production cost remains high, and I don't know whether you'd be keen that we look at the details, but what I wanted to show is a bigger picture, that if farmers have to do the right thing, then they are making a loss. And what farmers are now running to is that system whereby you now feed cows with whatever you can get your hands on. You know, just taking care of your cow the way people do with pets, like a cat, you know, whatever you can get your hands on, just feed the tummy. But you don't care about what that cow ate in terms of nutrition because you can't afford. If you attempt to do the right thing, then you make a loss. That's where we are.
It sounds like a very difficult place to be in. I mean, right now, especially for farmers. What is the problem in making the cost of production affordable for farmers? Where exactly are we dealing with here? And why is it that other countries can do it? I mean, because the reason why we are able to have cheaper dairy products in the country from other countries, we've been told that their cost of production, for some reason, has been lowered by their governments. So now, what are we looking at here? What's the problem?
Yeah, in fact, Oko, you mentioned something about Uganda last time, but I opted not to delve because I knew it was going to be a bit of a longer discussion about neighboring country, because last year I think there was that tussle, and I think it continues to bite, because just about a month ago, one of the largest processors in Uganda did away with 1,500 staff because they could no longer export milk to Kenya. Because Kenya was their growth model. Because of the per capita prospect, people consuming more milk, much more than Uganda. And it's a very strategic market where you are buying from farmers who are producing at a lower rate and then exporting to a country which is will be able to buy a little more. Now, the dynamics of our neighbor producing their milk at a lower rate, you need to see that in Uganda, it is not the entire country that has a hub for dairy. Where dairy is a real, cash economy is the southwestern side of Uganda. The side of, if you're going towards Rwanda, there's a major, one of the cities called Barara, as you go towards the south. Now that area has people with many animals and who are grazing. They're not feeding on zero grazing. They're grazing their cows, and they have many, and they have been breeding them upwards. And of course, we have a huge stock of them, the cows with the long horn. But gradually, people are now beginning to have the bigger cows. Now, what happens is that in Uganda, you don't see farmers feeding concentrates. If you have something about dairy milk, it's a concentrate feed. Farmers in Uganda are feeding pastures mainly, and they have not gone to that commercial level of beginning to challenge their cows to produce more by feeding them with the concentrates. Now, if you look at the cost structure of feeding a cow, the concentrates are taking 50% of the total cost of feeding alone. So you can imagine, if this person does not feed concentrates, they may produce less milk, because the bulk of their cows are not advanced genetically, but they are producing that milk at a lower cost. Then two, they don't have a component of purchased fodder. That is fodder that someone needs to go out there and buy, which Kenyan farmers are doing. Ask any rural farmer in Meru, Kenyaga, areas that are high potential with small land sizes. Farmers buying napier from their neighbor. Farmers buying maize stalks when maize has been harvested. Other more progressive farmers are buying full crop of maize for making silage. In Uganda, these guys are grazing on grass. So there are two aspects here. One, if you remove it from the feed, you are more likely to have cleaner milk, because the pathway of toxins into milk is more the concentrate and not the fodder. So a person who feeds on grass, a cow that feeds on grass and does not come across concentrates, in as much as they may produce less because they're not challenged to match their genetic potential, they are also less likely to give you milk that has toxins. So now you can see a lower cost of production in Uganda, and two, likelihood that this milk is going to be, in terms of quality, better. So what we began to see is the Kenyan mother beginning to say, I think I like that milk that is coming from Uganda. I don't want to mention the name. But I was saying that I like that milk because it tastes better. Now, that was going to be a very difficult situation for the Kenyan economy, because are we exposing ourselves by beginning to bring milk from a grass-fed cow? And what we have here is a cow that has been challenged through fodder. Not necessarily, we don't have a lot of grass-fed cows here. We feed napier grass, we feed maize, we feed all sorts of things, and then we feed concentrates. And you've heard the story about concentrates and the likelihood that a concentrate will carry with it aflatoxin.
Mr. Maina, there's something that you're saying here that strikes a really interesting chord in my mind. In terms of surface area, we have a larger surface area than our neighbors, Uganda.
Yes, we do.
Are we saying that we cannot have a situation similar to the one in Uganda?
So you're looking at...
you know exactly what I'm looking at.
You're looking at the size of land.
Yes, and I'm looking at arable land that can provide pasture, and I'm asking the question, why is it that we cannot do what Uganda is doing? That's really what I'm asking.
Now, I explained something contrasting between where the hub of dairy in Uganda is. It is a system which is open grazing.
Yes.
So cows they are basically on the grass, on pastures, and we get into supplementation, if any. By the way, we are not saying that this is a static system in Uganda. In fact, give Uganda 2 decades, and probably they'll be where we are. They will have gotten cows that are too advanced. The breeding system already in Uganda is very vibrant, so they are quickly just coming. And then the population of Uganda is estimated to exceed Kenya's population by 2050. In fact, perhaps by 2040, Uganda is going to be surpassing us if the FAO projections are going to be near accurate. And therefore, if their per capita is also rising, because Uganda comes second. If you look at Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, and Ethiopia, Uganda comes second after Kenya, with about half of the per capita consumption between 63 and about 67 liters per person per year, compared to Kenya's expected per capita of 2030, which is going to be about 130. I think they have been able to revise downwards from what they expected in 2010, where they thought that we might double our consumption by 2020. I think that was a bit of an ambitious projection on demographics rather than per capita consumption. So what will happen is that Uganda is also likely to begin consuming a lot more milk of what they are producing, and they may not be able to export in the future. But as it is now, they still have a chance because their consumption per capita is much lower, and their dairy production is growing. Now, the other thing, just like maize, if you see Uganda exporting maize here, it does not necessarily mean that they're producing more maize in terms of biomass. It means that it is not their staple, and therefore, they're only consuming maize in schools. But in the household, they are doing matoke. So they can give the maize to us, and they can also give us the maize jam, or other products that we imported from them, because their eating structure, their household feeding system is different. In the same way, when they are not using when they are using extensive grazing. Now, let me now paint a picture for Kenya. In Kenya, this 80% we talked about, that farmer who has 3 cows, these guys are constituting 80% of the total milk produced in the country in a year. So this farmer is, where is he? He's in Meru, he's in Mount Kenya region, and mainly he's in areas where they are having to struggle with, how do I use my 1 acre? Do I plant potatoes? Do I plant coffee? Do I plant tea? Or do I plant feed for cows? So they are constrained, and therefore they have to buy a lot of their feed from outside. What that means is that then they're going to spend more per cow than the typical farmer who is constituting the majority of production in Uganda. You can see the difference, eh?
Yep.
So it's not about country to country and how much land they have. It's about where is the hub for Uganda and what is their feeding system. Where is the milk coming from in Kenya and what is their feeding system? That is the contrast.
So on the issue of now, the cost of getting this fodder for the animals, especially for these 80% smallholder farmers in the highlands areas, how can we make it more efficient and cheaper?
Yeah, so now what's happening is that the production cost has been rising. One of the main driving factors is that the government, or basically our country, has no control or very little control of the cost of concentrates. Let me just explain to you where we are getting our concentrates. We are hardly producing these things from in-country. We are importing from Uganda. We are importing from Tanzania.
What is concentrate?
Now, very good. And last time I explained that when you look at the total feed given to a cow, there is what is we call the forage, which is grown, the one that is leafy, and there's then the what a layman could see as a powder
mash
or ground form. What are you calling it, Oko?
Mash.
Mashed. Okay, yeah, I think in poultry they were talking about mash.
Yeah.
So it is the non-forage component of feed. Now that component has been rising, and we have registered a rise from about 26 shillings to about 38 shillings in the last 1 year. So what was estimated by Tegemeo Institute that was 40%, that 40% of the total feeding cost is the concentrate, has now gone to above 50%. So what are farmers doing? Farmers are beginning to think, what if I adjust the burden concentrate and I just feed my fodder? And what fodder are we talking about? Napier grass is the most dominantly, it's the most prominent feed fodder among the smallholder farmers. So if they are bad on the dairy meal, what then means is that they are giving, first of all, they are giving a cow non-balanced diet, because you cannot give fodder only to a genetically advanced stock and expect that you're going to meet the balanced diet threshold. You cannot. The only thing you can achieve is that you can fill the tummy. But the cow does not reward you if what you're doing is filling her tummy. So the people who are in the high potential areas, with all this competition, do they produce for their children or do they produce for their cows? Tell me what happens if they decide to fill their farms with napier grass. First of all, they don't feed the cow properly because they are lacking the money to buy the concentrate. Probably they're also having problems getting food for the family because they have devoted land to fodder and the cow is not returning the money. So we reach now dropping back to a place where the household now needs help from government to be fed, because the sector they have devoted their farm resources towards is not paying back. It's actually draining them financially. So that is a major problem. If farmers abandon concentrates, they are not in a better place. If they continue feeding concentrates, they have no control over the cost of concentrates. Why? Because these concentrates are not being produced here. They are being imported. And it can even get worse. Imagine if a country like Tanzania says, we are going to hold our cotton seed cake, our sunflower seed cake, or any other protein ingredients that we are using for our dairy meal, and then Uganda says we are going to hold our milk jam because we have decided to make our dairy vibrant. Do you know we have no plan B on how farmers can feed their cows? We have no plan B. We don't have that produced locally. So the only option is to think, how can we already anticipate that there can be such a time when the other countries hold back or they decide to sell more expensive than what is reasonable? How do we already begin to counteract that by producing on our own? And yet government has about 4 million acres that can be used for agriculture that is now lying idle.
Are you saying it's not possible for us, or it hasn't been possible to have a conversation about organizing our farmers in such a way that they are actually people who grow this raw material for the concentrate? When we look at, okay, how do we improve the production or local production of this concentrate? You're talking about, what, sunflower seeds, cotton, maize germ?
Yes.
Can't we get this done?
Yeah, and also there's canola. Canola is also becoming quite, it's also coming in, playing in, but there are very few people doing it. It's actually a very good ingredient for dairy meal, on the same line as sunflower seed cake and cotton seed cake as a key ingredients of protein. They actually inject protein in the dairy meal. Now, there's something about viability. You cannot plant sunflower. In fact, I was talking to a farmer the other day who harvested about 300 acres of maize. And I was asking them, what if in this infield, because they're in Fiscal, Eldoret, they have a season in between where they don't plant anything. And I was asking them, what if you do sunflower? Because it is needed. And if you did the math, it's a loss. So this is not a very competitive crop to grow for smallholders. They cannot compare with what else they are having. Agriculture is about comparing. I have an option to produce A or to produce B. Which one is going to feed my family? If B does not make sense, nobody will grow it. So in such a thing, then what government does is that government decides to come up with schemes that can be able to produce such products in bulk, in masses, like probably you can put like 500,000 acres on sunflower. That is a scheme where the person who is producing is being supported by government with input. So instead of the government thinking about how do we subsidize daily, just support an investor, and for now it doesn't matter, we're in a crisis. The guy can be from Israel, can be Dutch, it can be anyone. We just need to feed the cow. If there's no local person who has that professionalism, just advertise and say we are looking for somebody who can produce sunflower, canola, and cotton on large scale, so that we can be able to provide all these ingredients from within our sources, and we'll be able to sell to the feed millers at a cost they can be able to afford. These feed millers are also wanted to make a profit. But if you ask somebody to come independently and produce that, first of all, let's agree, it can't be produced on an acre, it can't be produced on 100 acres, it has to be a huge acreage. So how do you ensure that guy makes a profit if the government does not subsidize all the input so that he can now form a business system around that, he can make a profit. And then we have this in the country. But as it is now, there is no effort whatsoever. The only effort I saw, which was about a few months ago, is when the minister said that the government has now accepted the land that is owned by government will now be availed for private investors to feed, and if they can be able to produce food or fodder on chunks of 2,500 acres, then the government is going to give them that land. But now tell me, the turnaround time. When the government says that they're going to do that, and they said about 3 months ago, when do you think they're going to do it?
2025.
You've been around. You've been around. Just like me, you've been around. I don't think it's going to happen this year. And there has to be a lot of follow-up, a lot of lobbying, because when minister says that, it's going to take a lot of time. But I like the fact that there was that declaration, and I also like the fact that the Ministry of Agriculture, the crop side, has been doing an inventory to find out how much land does government actually own that can be used for production, and which is currently not with quotas, so that it can move straight into production. So for the minister, for the CS to be able to say that we have this amount of land and we are willing to give it for food production, already that inventory has been done. It's now about how do we allocate that land? How do we start producing tomorrow so that the sector is not collapsing by the end of the year?
Indeed. Let's take a break at this point. 29 minutes after 8. We are speaking with David Miner. He is a dairy investment expert and the lead consultant at Performer Limited. We are talking about the viability of the dairy sector in Kenya. It's Performiter, not Performer. Talking about the viability of the dairy sector in Kenya. What needs to happen to make our dairy sector as vibrant as it should be and make our cost of production low so that our cost of milk is low? We are consuming much more milk than any other country in this region, but our milk is more expensive than from many other countries in the region. 8:30, time for a break. We'll be back shortly. We're live on KTN Home, SpiceFM, and streaming online. Good morning.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM. Spice FM.
It's getting hot in here.
Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they are getting per year, how much inconvenience they are causing, as much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation. Because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a fuliza country. We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef working and the assistant chef wakati anatakana koroge unga nini hayuko.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
It's raining again in Nairobi this morning at 17, highs of 22, lows of 16. Also, rain has begun in Nyeri at 15 degrees, highs of 22 today. Looking at partly sunny conditions in Nakuru at 17, highs of 24, highs of 23 will be recorded in Eldoret today, sunny conditions at 16. It's also sunny at 19 in Kisumu, highs of 27, highs of 27 in Kakamega, and 21 right now, sunny. Partly sunny conditions in Mombasa at 26, highs of 30, and it's also cloudy in Malindi at 28. It'll go to highs of 30 today. 25 will be the high in Kampala, where it's mostly sunny at 21. Dar es Salaam is sunny at 25. It'll go to highs of 30. We're looking at sunny conditions in Joburg at 14. The low will be 8, highs of 23. 32 will be the high in Lagos. It's mostly clear at 26. And mostly cloudy conditions in Kinshasa at 25, with highs of 33 and lows of 24.
Spice FM. Nyeri.
All right, that Gong Road situation is also causing a lot of traffic today. Getting towards the roundabout at the city mortuary, and also going in the other direction. So we have in and outbound traffic on Gong Road. Mombasa Road is still a thing, my goodness, as you're getting out, trying to get towards the city. The southern bypass also going towards Langata Road. There was some traffic there. Industrial area, let's not even talk about it. It's jam-packed, guys. And coming off of Thika Road, coming into the city, melee. We're still looking at jam-packed situations across Nairobi. Let's take a look in half an hour, shall we? See how that has changed. Okay? SpiceFM KE, talk to us on Twitter.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
26 minutes to 9 o'clock. The conversation continues. This and every weekday morning, you have Nduoko, Eric Latif, and CT Muga in the Situation Room. Joining us this morning is David Miner, dairy investments expert, looking at the business and the commercial side of dairy farming in the country. Ndu.
Yes, I mean, I think you're just coming off of a question that Eric had asked. But what is the problem with growing some of these things? Allocating land and resources from a government perspective, from a government side of implementation, and saying some of the things that we actually need here, we know what they are. Where does the problem then lie in making a decision and saying, all right, let's grow cottonseed cake, let us grow sunflower? Why can't we do it?
Okay. I think there's something that for a long time has been, I would say, a connection that has been missing. A connection between food security and feed security. Whenever government is thinking about food security, there is a faint connection that always has to be, there has to be, they see it faint, but it's a very strong connection. If you feed livestock, you actually fulfilling the food security agenda of the government or of the country. And I noted that because one time we were pushing for an introduction of a grass in the country. Introduction of new varieties of grasses and fodders is not an easy process because it has a very strict, there are very strict protocols of introducing exported seeds if you want to improve the varieties of grass or pastures that we have around. And I remember the gentleman who was the DG then, I think it's a competitive authority of Kenya or something like that. He told me that we are already dealing with the introduction of new potato varieties, new bean varieties. Then he showed me the list of the varieties of crops or seeds that they're introducing, that they are releasing. And of course, they were getting reports from Kenya Plant Health Inspection Services, KCSE. And you could see that number 1 to 10 was food for humans. And he told me, David, honestly, if I'm under pressure to release a new variety of potatoes, which is our second staple as a country after maize, then I have how do you expect me to start discussing with you about releasing a grass? Then I said, okay, now I see where the problem is. Then the first release by the CS, after we had discussed and even participated in writing a cabinet memo, very good job by the Kenya Dairy Board, who are the ones who presented it to the ministry, so that the government can actually pass a policy to devote land to production of fodder. What did we see? That government is allowing anybody who can invest in 2,500 acres of land to be able to produce food for the country. So the word feed was kicked out. So what that means is that they will always be thinking, what if people get hungry? How do we feed the people? And that's why we see a lot of imports of human foods happening very quickly, sometimes without any order, because there's a panic. People are going to get hungry. But now, the question is, what if we can be able to think that feeding livestock is halfway feeding the people? Because how much meat are we eating? How much milk are we taking every day? If we are bad on livestock, and I'm not talking about dairy cows only, I'm talking about livestock in general, if you don't get concerned about that farmer doing chicken, doing poult, doing pigs, doing small stock, goats and sheep, then how are we managing to demarcate between feed and food, and we still think that we are playing in an agenda on food security? There's no way you can discuss food without discussing feed. These two are, I don't know how you put it, they are joined at the hip, and you cannot separate them. So when I got that note, I texted one of the directors of a state corporation, the Minister of Agriculture, that do these people mean food? And when I was waiting for feed, then the person told me, I think feed is included. So you can see it is not mainstreamed that whenever we strategize about food, we should be thinking about feed. So if today we are discussing pastures, people are going to wonder, if people are hungry for milk and potatoes, why are we discussing grass? If we don't do that connection, then we actually trivialize the discussion on feed security. And that's why we are having a problem.
You know, there's something that I'm gathering from this discussion, that all the ingredients, all the variables that are required to enable us, A, to provide what is required to ensure that our milk production is at an optimum, and at the same time, ensure that we can actually feed the country, that we have the necessary variables in the country. Now, tell me, everything, I'm joining on to what Ndu asked. What is preventing us from doing this very thing that we know? Because land we have, the things that we need to grow, we know, we have a ready market for it. What prevents us?
And by the way, I agree with you. Whenever people say that we have challenged land sizes, that challenge is only confined to people who are owning land in high potential areas, and where land is divided into very small pieces. But if you look at the global picture of the Kenyan land, we have a lot of land. Some of it, we're even keeping it in the SQ that we're keeping it for elephants, or because we have a duty to maintain conservancies. I don't know about fresh air and everything. But if you look at, if you ask the Kenya Wildlife, there's a lot of land that they have allowed that people can actually cultivate within the conservancies. It is not all of it that must be maintained to be the wildlife corridor. They know how to balance that. So there's still a lot of land. If you go to places, I have had a chance to visit some countries which are more desert countries or rocky even within around us, Horn of Africa, like Djibouti, and countries where if you travel 100 kilometers, the only thing that changes on the roadside is the color of the stone, from brown to silver to, I don't know, gray. It is stone and stone. I mean, you can't cultivate there. And there has to be any agriculture. It is where rain for over the years has carried some gravel and has formed some type of soil. That is the only place where people can farm. But now, look at our country. We have soil. That's all we need. The rest of it can be done. So we have a lot of land, and for many years, we have not been able to bring that connection. How do we use that land to be able to produce a lot of feed? So the question of, I think Oko asked about why are we not able to do that? This cannot be done by farmers. I think, Eric, that's what you're suggesting. Why can't we have farmers doing it so that they are also making money out of it? I think you're seeing a picture whereby one farmer is producing the concentrate, taking to the factory for milling. The other farmer is a producer of dairy, so they form an ecosystem there. But it is not viable in small scale. It's only viable in very large scale. And that can only be coordinated by government, and it has to be subsidized so that the person doing it is making a profit. So 10 years ago is when we were supposed to do this, if we are going to be strategic enough. But until now, we just are seeing where we say light at the end of the tunnel, where at least we have a government, we need to acknowledge we have a problem, that we have strength because we have land. But as it is now, I can say that if we do nothing in the next 2 years, we are going to see a trend where we have to import milk for our people to drink. And the gradual decline in dairy is largely going to be caused by farmers quitting.
Okay, so David, I think you just said going into what my next question was, because how bad is the situation? Because we could have a myopic view of things. I walk into the supermarket, I can buy milk, right? The people who have their cows on the farm, whatever, they have milk every morning. We had a situation last year where there was a glut, and we had farmers, unfortunately, pouring milk into the street. So from the naked eye, it would appear that there's not a problem. There's no shortage. There's no scarcity. If we need milk, we can get it. If we need milk products, we can get it. Cheese, buttermilk, whatever, it's available. So how bad is the situation really, if we want to look at it? Because it could then lead to the reason why nothing is really being done about it, because it's not felt that there's a big problem. Because if you need it, it's available, right? We haven't had a situation whereby it's reported and said we were looking for milk and we couldn't find it, or that livestock was not producing, isn't it? So it could be the reason why we look at this thing and say it's not really much of a problem. Why are we hemming and hawing about the whole thing?
Alcohol, let me tell you that from the consumer end, it is difficult to read a disaster from the consumer end because it is actually stuck on the producer end. If today we have no milk in the country, unless there's a serious tariff or non-tariff barrier on import of milk products, you will not miss milk on the shelf. There's not much cheese produced in Kenya, but you still see a lot of cheese coming from other countries. And Kenya, among the neighboring countries, has a list of such products on their shelves. Go to Ethiopia, you will not believe it. I mean, nearly every product of milk you see is coming from other countries. If you go to West Africa, we can say entirely, all the shelves are occupied by import. What happens about the international market is that if you cannot produce a product competitively, there is someone else in the world who is producing it more competitively than you, and they can fill your shelves, they can feed your people. That's not a problem. So consumers will always get. I told you that young mothers were getting excited about a milk brand from Uganda.
Yes.
And they were not asking whether this is being produced by my mother in the village. They were just saying that my daughter likes it. Therefore, I'm going to buy it.
But David, were they looking for this milk because of the quality of the milk or because of an absence of the commodity in Kenya? And this is my question, is that there's still milk being produced in Kenya. And it could sound like a really rudimentary question, but from the basics, this is what people are going to ask you. And I'm going to go back to it as a reason as to why nothing is being done about it in terms of priority, because it is not seen as a sore thumb issue right now. You see, the mothers who are buying milk, for example, from Uganda are seeing it as a better quality product, not because there is an absence of what they can get in country. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Now, I must say that it was produced more. I said two things about it was produced more competitively, and of course the ingredients, what the cow ate was it was safer in terms of the possibility of introducing the pollutants come through concentrates, which Uganda is not feeding. Now, when a shopper goes to a supermarket and they go to the milk area, I'm telling you, there's hardly any shopper who checks where this product is coming from. What they do, they check the price tags.
Mm-hmm.
Which one is cheaper for me, so that I can save a coin. You know, in general, we all know that we are constrained financially in the country, and everybody is sensitized that we are in not very good place as far as incomes are concerned. Nobody is very sure about next year or tomorrow anymore. So when you go to buy something, first of all, it has to be very basic, no luxury. And then two, even among the choices I have to take the fairest. So how many shoppers do you begin to check? Is it coming from Italy? Is it coming from France? Is it coming from Uganda? No, they say this one is 48, this is 55. I go for the 48 one. It's when one of the children is looking at the park after it is put in the dustbin and they discover, I think this is come from where my mother is doing daily. And what do they do tomorrow? Are they buying because they are patriotic? Or they are being led by how much money they can afford to be able to buy a product.
Okay, David,
there's hardly anybody who goes to buy because of patriotism. Otherwise, the Buy Kenya, Build Kenya in itself has limits because it has to do.
David, one of our listeners has been more specific and has asked me the question. So then, how is it that KCSE butter costs 800 shillings and Brookside costs 500 shillings?
Okay, now that's
for the same quantity.
I don't think I'm not an expert in post-factory gate.
No, I want you to speculate.
Yes.
Theoretically, why would that happen? Because they're both produced in Kenya, and there's this one which, for the same amount, half a kilo, one is 500 bob, and that's true. The other one is 800. It's also true.
I'm actually very surprised that you have a butter customer talking to you, because those are 2% of Kenyans. There are very few people who buy butter and cheese and these solid products. But I actually don't know the dynamics. The bulk of Kenyans just know fresh milk. And a few middle class and working class that are now doing yogurt. But butter, I think we are discussing a niche guy. I don't know much about that. Honestly, I can't comment about the solid products and how they're produced. But anyway, luxury products, really. Do people even bother? You know, I can tell you for sure when people go to the market, they will say, I like KCSE. Somebody is talking about a brand. At that level, people don't talk about price. This is a luxury product.
It's about the
when
brand.
you come to they talk about the brand. So if you're interacting with people who are on high income, listen to them. They are buying meat a kilo at 3,000 shillings because it is grass-fed and it's fattened using silage. They are even asking how long has it been aged. They don't ask how much are you selling it.
Those would be the question.
Don't know how did it come here and where is it coming from.
You know, David.
Back to the question, David.
Please.
When you come to the majority of Kenyans, and of course, the issue is not about the brand.
Back to the question,
David.
The question that Ndu had started with earlier was, so how bad is it?
Now,
how long do you give us before we start seeing, okay, we saw farmers cutting off their coffee, farmers abandoning sugar, farmers abandoning tea. How long before we start seeing farmers abandoning livestock?
No, we are already there. In terms of daily, it's not a question of how long. You should probably be asking when did it start. It already started, and I think we are not going on a good trend. I see big farmers already struggling. And one of the things I've been saying, if today I was in government, and perhaps this idea could also be used by government people, is there a way to begin to profile farmers? Profiling farmers means if there's a farmer today who is producing 100 liters of milk, because we're in trouble and we are facing a risk of not producing for our very own population, I would actually begin to subsidize them. Even before I go to the farmers producing from milk, I would begin to say, if you are there and you can produce 300 liters a day, we have talked to the certain bank, government has put 100 million or 1 billion, so that you can be able to get your input at an interest rate of 5%, so that you can produce it, because we need it and you don't want to import. Then I go to the smallholders. Smallholders, we know that if we deal with the issue of concentrate, and it comes to 10 units less, you can be able to make your money. Plant your napier, plant your grass where you can, but let us deal with the concentrate issue. We are going to stop the rise of the prices. We are going to produce 1 million acres of ingredients for dairy meal, and therefore we promise you that in the next about 10 months, when you have the first season out, then you have 10 shillings less per kg of dairy milk. Then you have already made the smallholders viable, and you have been able to encourage larger scale production. Then, in the next 10 years, if you continue supporting them, these two, The large scale, medium scale, those ones may need a lot of financial injection at very considerable rates where government has subsidized the rates of borrowing. And then for these others, we are beginning to enter the area where the problem is. And remember, if you do that, we are talking about 80% of all dairy producers are going to be helped. And then this sector, I think something we didn't mention, it's a number that Eric, you perhaps should also be you could mention, is that we have 2 million people who are relying on dairy every day, not necessarily on the farm level, but in different areas, waiting for that farmer to produce milk so that their job can be secure. If the farmer collapses, then he collapses with 2 million others. So it is not just about that farmer who is about 800 to 1 million people who are doing milk only. If farmers are complaining, because they also use the same feed. So if you deal with the feed issue, you have helped the beef farmer, and by the way, beef livestock are actually more in terms of actual numericals than dairy. So it's actually a total landscape change if you intervene at the feed level. And for the bigger farmers who are doing beef and doing dairy, you have to look at them in terms of how do we ensure they produce more? How do we ensure that that farmer who is giving Kenya 1,000 liters of milk every day, and his family is taking 2 liters, and he is giving 998 to the cities and to the areas where farmers and people are not producing milk, how do we ensure that farmer does not close? That is what should be keeping governments awake at night.
We have a food and nutrition security that's less than 10 years old. Does it need to be tweaked to incorporate all these things?
Are you talking about the AFA,
the food and nutrition security policy?
Okay. Now, well, of course, now, policy is one, Eric. Policy is one. And sometimes I also, when you listen to the senior government officers, and we have had these discussions virtually, sometimes when Stratmore University was hosting these government meetings and asking hard questions, the answers we hear is that we now have a policy on feed. Yes. We now have a policy on quality of, we now have a policy on land. And talk to a member of parliament in the committees, the head of agriculture and so on, ask them, they'll tell you we have passed a bill, we have a policy. But you see, this is a proper sector. So sometimes the farmer may not feel the policy. The farmer feels the implementation of a policy when it actually touches him. And this is a proper sector. It is not a sector like minerals or petroleum. When you say that you've discovered a certain rare mineral in Taita, the smallholder in Meru begins to wonder, how will that change my household? Or how will how will oil in Turkana change? How will it pay my school fees? They don't see the connection, in as much as it may change the macroeconomics of a country. So there has been a huge problem, and that's why farmers are beginning to give up on a policy change as a promise. What they want to see is whether there's a policy or not, can we be helped? And let me tell you, Eric, our problem in Kenya has not been policies. There are a lot of policies that have been passed, but we never felt the advantage of such policies.
So is it going to...
I still think that we have a long way to go, even in the policy.
We want to say goodbye to our audience on KTN Home who've been with us since top of the hour. But then we'll keep David for 5 more minutes so we can conclude this conversation. Switch over to SpiceFM 94.4 in Nairobi. Mombasa is 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, 96.0 Nakuru, Eldoret 96.7, 90.9 in Nyeri, and Malindi is 97.7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, just the way you like it.
The Spice Drive.
Did you have a great day? I hope you did. I intend to make it better from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. I'm going to be taking you home nice and chill. Everyone is welcome aboard. The hashtag is Spice Drive, and of course, SpiceFM KE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
The Spice Drive with Monique, the official soundtrack of getting you where you need to be.
All right, 5 minutes to 9. You had a question for David.
Right, so is it going to take an Ireland moment? I just remember what had happened, David, with Ireland. They had a severe famine, couldn't feed its people. And then, and they did have a quasi-policy in place. But when the famine struck and they said, we never want to be in this situation again. So they started to feed their people. And then they started to produce with mechanisms in place that would ensure they had a surplus every year, to ensure that there was something in the barn every year to be able to feed their people. Until now, they export food as though, it's growing literally on trees, pun intended. Now, is that what is going to take here? Is it going to get to war pressing status to be able to say, okay, this is then now we need to start the implementation of these policies, because it would appear that that's what needs to happen. A really terrible situation needs to take place in order for us to say, all right, these policies that we have in place need now to be implemented. Because right now it seems as if folks are comfortable.
I hope it doesn't get there, because it's not always a promise that after famine you'll have a turnaround. There has to be somebody who actually champions the interventions after famine. After something terrible has happened, there still is a leader to steer that. So there are also some risky situations, some countries that have not been mentioned, where a famine led to more famine and led to loss of livelihood.
Sure.
Nothing happens. So, you don't want to get there because you don't know. Is there a promise that we could spring up from this? There's a risk that we may not spring up. So, I don't think we are going to get there, because likely what's likely to happen is that we have a huge adverse imbalance on balance of trade. If we have less milk being produced, then what we expect is that there is going to be a long duration of imports of milk powder to Kenya to give to the milk processors, Tier 1, so that they can give Kenyans the milk they need. So what that means is that we have lost ground as far as our export-import balance is concerned. Already we are on the disadvantage on the end, that is, what we can say we are already on the bad end, where we import more than we are exporting. So for us to be able to see something happening, we have either to agree that we are getting to an import-oriented milk sector, which means that we are killing the local sector, which I hope never happens, because we are talking about huge and many livelihoods in terms of numbers relying on it. And if we are going to do that, then we design it. We design it in such a way that then we have a replacement commodity. We are going to lose ground on dairy. What can we be exporting in large quantities that is going to give us more foreign exchange than so that if we have to import, then we still maintain our ground as far as the currency strength, as far as balance of trade is concerned. So it's a macro level discussion, because what would happen is that already as a financially strained country, and you can see the public debt cannot be ignored, how do you begin then to introduce a new commodity for import, and you have not prepared a new commodity for export? What are we doing there? Are we going to survive that?
That's very true. David, we thank you very much for joining us again today. David Miner is a dairy investments expert and lead consultant at Performita Limited. Asante sana, and we hope to have you again on the show soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Eric, and your team, and all the best.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. The conversation about agri-talk and agribusiness happens every day on KTN Farmers TV. Join Philip Keitani every day at 4 p.m. and you'll have this and other conversations. You know, when you talk about food security, it's not just about crop. It's also looking at the security in terms of provision of protein on the plate. Milk, meat, and all other kinds of meat. And such discussions are really, really important, so we can mainstream the conversation as well. So agriculture is not just about people going to the farm and farming and producing crop, but it's also end-to-end viability of the entire value chain. Keep it right here. The conversations continue to the next hour. We thank you very much for all the comments that you send us on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. In the next hour, we'll open up the phone lines for you to participate as well. 0719 012 600. That's 0719 012 600. Time for the news with Dennis. Good morning. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Shortly, it's 9 a.m.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. You will today know if you will participate in the referendum for constitutional amendments following the BBI bill when the court rules on the cases filed against the plan. A 5-judge bench panel is expected to make a ruling on 17 issues raised through the BBI's constitutional review process. The questions stem from 8 cases filed by civil society organizations, human rights activists, and some Kenyans who want to know the legitimacy of how the bill was drafted. The Justice and Legal Affairs Committee in Parliament will this morning question Chief Justice-elect Martha Koome to fill the post. Koome will be interviewed in sessions expected to be chaired by Chairperson Muturi Kigano. Among the issues to be addressed is a complaint lodged by LSK President Nelson Havi, who accused her of bias. Koome said she would embark on transforming the judiciary should she get the job.
First of all, looking at this constitution, it requires a reform-oriented Chief Justice who will be able to carry on that transformative agenda, that foundation that was laid by Chief Justice Willy Mutunga and has been transjected to the building blocks that Chief Justice Maraga has put in place.
In the process of appointing the Chief Justice, the committee is expected to present its report to Parliament, and if approved, it will be submitted to President Uhuru Kenyatta for appointment. Parliamentary committee hearing the motion to impeach Wajir Governor Mohamed Abdu Mohamud continues today. Similarly, 2 witnesses to the Wajir Assembly are expected to present their evidence. Yesterday, the governor denied the allegations leveled against him, insisting that he is willing to cooperate with the committee to find out the truth.
Honorable Chairman, I would like to categorically state that I will fully cooperate with the committee and assist in establishing the truth and nothing but the truth.
During the sessions, the county assembly informed the committee that the governor's family, led by his wife, was the one who made the decisions regarding the county's activities, which is illegal. President Uhuru Kenyatta and UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson will today conduct virtual visits of Westlands Primary School in Nairobi and Cleves Cross Primary School in Ferryhill, England, as part of the Global Partnership for Education initiative. The visits will provide President Kenyatta and Prime Minister Johnson an opportunity to directly engage with pupils aged between 9 and 11 years and create a high-profile moment for championing education for all, with all special focus on technology and girls' education. The government will roll out the second dose of COVID-19 vaccine beginning June. The Ministry of Health made the announcement even as it moved to assure Kenyans of the efficacy of the second dose of AstraZeneca vaccine, whose administration has been pushed to 12 weeks. That is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
Okay, so it's raining again. This compounds the traffic issue, drizzling in some parts of Nairobi. So Mombasa Road is still slow up until General Motors at least. And then you get to the South Sea turnoff, past Next Gen Mall. It's going to take you very slowly through to the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. And then there are rivers and lakes and waterfalls and all sorts of things happening. So traffic is very, very slow on that part today. Jogo Road to the city, also slow. Coming off Thika Road to the Pangani Tunnel out to Ngara. Use Wangari Maathai Road. Always give you good reprieve. The Southern Bypass looking good. You can use that as well. Let's get out of this traffic thing as early as possible today. All right. But still talk to us though. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Let's see what it looks like from your neck of the woods and see if we can help other folks out. Text as well on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room The only way to start
It's
your
5 after 9. Thank you very much for staying tuned and locked in the Situation Room right here on SpiceFM. CT, today's proverb.
One who causes misfortune also teaches wisdom.
One who causes misfortune also teaches wisdom. Nice one. And ni muhimu. Ni muhimu pia. Indeed it is. Very many comments on the previous conversations that we've had on social media. David Moura is very deep and thorough in these matters. I give it to him. Well done. And thank you very much. Stephen says, fodder has not been abandoned as you sat. Pressuria is one very good recent example. But more importantly, what's the farm gate cost in Kenya compared to countries in the region like Rwanda, Tanzania, Uganda, etc.? And how do we see things turning out through the Africa Continental Free Trade Area? Good areas to have conversations on. So earlier we talked about, the kerfuffle between USAID and KEMSA, and you went ahead to remind us how we have received support, especially in the health sector.
For the longest time. I mean, what has probably taken a front row seat when it comes to healthcare has been the PEPFAR, the Presidential Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, that has been with us now for 20 years. It's been here for the longest time. And why I mention that is because it hasn't just covered, because it was assumed it was just HIV. No. It covered not just HIV, but anything that could fall into the category of an opportunistic disease was also covered by it. And that's how the blood donor services also got under that umbrella. And if you look at that particular support that we received, it's not just Kenya. Any emerging economy, third world country, there is no way they would have survived HIV without that particular relief. It is not possible for them to have survived it. And now with COVID came in a different discussion. The discussion of how do you then look at a holistic way of ensuring that every citizen on this particular planet is able to access healthcare. And then the discussion of UHC came in. And with the discussion of UHC, the one country that predominantly showed a helping hand was Japan. 8 billion Kenyan shillings towards supporting UHC. 8 billion. Now, why do I bring this up? Because every time I look at and I listen to the help that, the news about the help that we get from other countries, I think there's one component in this discussion that is perhaps not mentioned often enough. These people are helping us with their taxpayers' money. Money that their taxpayers have paid. And it is this money that the taxpayers have paid that then comes in the form of the grant or the aid that we receive. And they are accountable to their taxpayers. So now, let's bring it home and ask. We are also taxpayers. And we have employees. We call them politicians, civil servants. These are our employees. These are people who are answerable to us. And yet, our chief complaint seems to be this tax money that we give them to manage on our behalf isn't managed well. So we have to keep going to other countries to get them to give us their taxpayers' money. So are we really shackled to the point where we can never emancipate ourselves fully from this? Are we in a position where we can never manage our affairs with our own taxpayers' money?
From receiving aid?
Yes, because that's what it is.
For how long shall you?
Are we always going to have this begging bowl where we are always parading our misfortunes, many of which we have brought upon ourselves just due to the mismanagement of the resources that we, the citizens, have bequeathed these leaders to manage on our behalf? Is this a permanent? Should we just resign and say, you know something, we're just going to be borrowing, our children will continue borrowing, and we're also borrowing on behalf of our grandchildren, meaning our future is going to be one of borrowing, and this is what we're going to continue doing for the rest of our lives.
It's an easy way to solve problems, isn't it?
It isn't. That's the question. What do you really solve?
Because you don't really solve the issue. It's an easy escape. It's an easy escape route. What's difficult is the consequences of it that most people that most governments who are on the receiving end of this aid don't take into consideration. Or if they do take into consideration, then ignore these consequences and, kick the proverbial can down the road because we don't have to deal with it right now. So instead of putting mechanisms in place that will actually spur your economy on, and that you would have extra reserves to then do something with, run the country, develop the country, take care of the country in times of emergency. Because if we want to be very simple about it, that's what these other countries are doing. That the money that they actually give in aid, let's be honest, is not that they shared and said 50% to develop the country, 25% to do this, and then let's take another 25% and then give those who need it. It is surplus. There is no way that they're giving aid when there's something in their country that they need to do and has not been done, and that they're going to suffer a shortfall because they're giving aid to somebody else. It is not going to happen. It is a surplus. Why did they get to a surplus state? Because there are certain things that they did, there are certain things that they put in place where they can come back and say, okay, guys, we have some extra. Can we help so and so? So now when you actually continually take this aid, and in term it comes in grants, it comes in loans, whatever way or whatever channel it comes in, it is an easy way to shirk the responsibility of what you ought to be doing when it comes to the development agenda in your own country, especially when you continue doing it on a recurrent basis. Okay, we'll just get some here. We'll deal with it later. We'll get some here. We'll deal with it later. But other things that you can do to make sure that you have the surplus that you depend on from other countries, because they worked hard to get it. That's why most times, who do we not hear it from? We hear it from the US. We hear it from European countries that they have to now go back and tell their people, actually, you know what? This is the money that we're giving to Kenya. This is the money that we're giving to Nigeria. This is the money we're giving to whomever. Can we give? Then they say yes. But we need an account of how it has been spent. Because it is extra. They have done what they needed to do to take care of the people. This is extra that they now give out. Can we do without it? I say we can. The way you can do without it is if you're actually taking the responsibility to make sure that your own economy is running to the point whereby you have taken care of your people and you have extra. That's the way. But you know what? It is hard work. And that's why I'm saying taking the aid is an easy option.
Think about it. We keep talking about development as though development has to do with building roads.
No.
And putting up huge houses. And so we keep borrowing for the same.
It's a very small part of it.
It is. Infrastructure is key to developing. That one has long been understood. It is accepted. However, what about the potentials that we actually have and which already exist, and tying in the infrastructure with the potential development? What do I refer to here? I'm focusing on something like, say, the blue economy. We have a coastal
strip.
A boundary. It's a huge one. We even have lakes within the country that traverse other countries within this region. There are countries that have given this particular part of the economy priority and have benefited immensely from it. There's a lot of talk about the blue economy. We even set up a Coast Guard in 2018. An act was put forth that provided for this. But what is it that you've seen that actually brings about a profitable economic exploitation of this particular economy? Look at the building of the Lamu port. Okay? That is a development that indeed should spur a lot of economic activity. But to understand it, you also need to look at the help that we have received in order for us to actually get to that particular point. But with the help, the question is, what have we done with the help that we have received?
Does the help come on a very clear and open platter, or does the help come with conditions and strings that only dictate how that help shall be utilized?
The help always comes with strings, and before you take it, they tell you very clearly how exactly it is that they're going to give it to you.
Okay.
And it differs, really. For instance, you bring up this all the time. For instance, if we're being given budgetary support, you're told, this is exactly how we want you to use this money. This one you're not using to build any bridge or to build schools. This one you're going to use it for A, B, C, D. Then there are these things we're told that come in as grants. Again, it is specific. All these things are specific.
Okay. Now, in those specifics, are those specifics actually geared towards helping you become self-sufficient, or are they geared to help to keeping you under the yokes of this aid that you receive? This is why I'm asking this. So you receive aid, yes, in a specific program. This is aid that's coming to the support of the healthcare sector in the country. how much of that aid has actually constructed hospitals, or how much of that aid has actually been used to hire doctors and retain doctors? How much of that aid has been used to run a program on the consumables of a program? So that you can say that once this is done, we have taken in the aid, and this is what we've done. We have improved our healthcare system by constructing the hospitals. Because I'm using that example, City, because many times when we talk about the aid that has come only on HIV, you say that is aid that was enough to actually have
overhauled our entire
healthcare system.
Yes.
That is, build hospitals, equip those hospitals,
Yes.
hire doctors and all the experts,
Yes.
ensure there's a proper training program, not just at that level, but also on the education front.
Yes.
Ensure there's research capacity that has been built that can self-sustain.
Yes.
So why didn't we do that, even with the conditions that are being given by these very good people who are giving us the aid?
There are pockets of areas where the very things I am saying actually got done. Because you would find, since we're using the example of PEPFAR money for HIV and AIDS care, you found that comprehensive care centers that didn't exist within the government hospital were built. Now, it wasn't just built as in stone and mortar. No. Equipped in the way that you've described it. Now, it means that it is a lasting development.
Yes.
Labs were upgraded to the point where they met certain very high world standards.
Yes.
Right? Within. So these are, again, lasting structures. And you found them within existing government hospital structures. But the thing that I found particularly interesting was the training aspect and the knowledge that was gained in learning how to manage the disease and everything that has to do with it. You had to learn how to, A, manage the medication that went with the diseases, manage the disease itself in the patient, and understanding how best to ensure that the patients benefit. So just that knowledge alone uplifted the capacity of those working in that field to a point where it wasn't just with HIV. Come COVID, you then had an array of individuals who had hitherto not been part and parcel of the healthcare system. My favorite, wait for it, healthcare workers. Okay? A whole host of them were trained, employed, not just in taking care, but in counseling, in managing. I'm talking about skill sets that previously did not exist.
Yes.
But because the need brought into being.
Yes.
So if you're talking about that, it already happened.
So that a lot of that happened.
It happened.
If we were to look at it comparatively in terms of percentages, the amount of money that has come into this sector over the last 20 or so years, how much has gone into the downstream, and that is having the healthcare workers, supporting those community health workers and giving them knowledge. How much has gone into the middle stream, and that is ensuring that we have those facilities that you've talked about, upscaling of labs, equipping of the labs. How much has gone at the top level, or upstream, if I want to call it that, in terms of HIV is a big problem in this country. How much have we invested in supporting research on the development and production of antiretrovirals? What would you say the percentages would be?
The next scale of actually having the production of, say, antiretroviral in the country, if you well know that it's something that is being discussed as I'm talking to you now. But it isn't that we didn't have the capacity to do so. We could have begun that process. We could have even actually started that process. But what made the big difference with HIV was that everything we're talking about was being given to us, literally. It was free. You didn't pay a cent for it. You got it, and it was there for you to utilize for all these years. Now, why am I saying there was a great benefit? If someone is taking care of a disease and the opportunistic disease that arise from it, what they've done is they've removed the burden that you would ordinarily have to treat TB, whether it is malaria, anything that is as a consequence. That has been removed from you because somebody else is taking care of it for all these years. Now, I would have expected or anticipated that given the funding that is then received for recurrent expenses within the health sector, that what would have been put into operation is to ensure that when this funding ends, because it would end, the capacity to be able to do this ourselves had been developed. It wasn't.
Okay. And completely agree. Now that's why I'm trying to approach it from a different angle and asking, are there conditions that had been put is it possible that there were conditions that had been put that ensured that there is no competing investment in this sector or in this particular field of healthcare?
What do you mean, for instance?
Such a way that what we are saying is, if we notice that you're still spending money on, other areas of a healthcare system, then, without saying it loudly,
yes,
then you stand the danger of actually us withholding spending here. Is there a possibility of such kind of things happening? What I'm trying to push here is the conditions, the unspoken and sometimes spoken but not loudly spoken conditions that accompany the aid that you receive.
Yes, I will even mention
and the
some.
impact that would have on making you highly dependent on this aid, that at some point you get to a point where you can only depend on the aid. Because you moved away from thinking independently a long time ago. Now you are completely held.
The thinking that I think the point you're trying to make is an extremely valid one. It is valid. But look at it this way. What HIV and AIDS did, it placed an even heavier burden on the healthcare system than previously existed.
Yeah.
So, just like COVID is doing. So, the among the purposes of this aid was to ensure that, one, you employ additional people into the healthcare system. And then you train them in this specific area of care and treatment. You had to be taught. You had to come there. They weren't teaching it in medical school. No. You had to get into the field for you to be taught how to care for this specific niche of people who are HIV positive. Now, everything around it had to be specific. You are talking about viral load testing. You are talking about everything around it. It couldn't be done without that capacity being increased. Now, as I said, once labs had been upgraded, built, comprehensive care centers built, it was done, the knowledge to operate it was provided, people who were required to help the system more employed, and then we devolved the system and made it a county program, isn't it?
Yeah.
Health became a devolved
function.
Yes, exactly. Now, when that happened, what it meant was those in that field then had to work with county governments. What you would find would happen is that areas that had probably never received any attention in healthcare, far-flung areas within the county system, were now able, healthcare centers that perhaps had even been neglected and were derelict, would now be upgraded to be able to provide this. The question Eric is asking, competing interest. The competing interest, in my mind, didn't really exist because a service which was being provided was a service that it was understood the government would not be able to meet. Given the demands that the government had in other sectors, it wasn't possible to meet this demand of care and expense that went with it and do the other things that you're supposed to do. That was the understanding. But I'm saying, because of that focus, with the passage of time, 10, 15, going to 20 years, what would then happen is that the burden would have gone down. If the burden then went down, then it means you were to get to a point where it was actually manageable with the healthcare system that we had. And remember, it wasn't what we found. It had been upgraded with the time.
But I see now the point coming in is that what would have been, if we're looking at some of the factors that you talked about, what would have gone wrong, quote unquote, with future aid if the initial investment was used to take care of all these other things in between that would have needed further help? You see? So if I take care of a problem, I don't have to come to you tomorrow. But it would appear as if there's this overhanging cloud that kind of says, I'm just going to give you what you need to get through right now. I actually don't want you to develop further than that because I am kind of insisting on this dependence on me.
No, the dependence...
I think that there is an element there of saying, remain dependent on me.
Today?
Yeah, still till today.
Let me ask the question. Were there movements that the government made to try and bring about that sort of situation which was stifled? I don't think, if you ask me, that, at least to my knowledge, that there was anything preventing, whether it was the commercials or the government, there was nothing preventing them. There
was nothing stopping them from putting these structures in place that would then make it
none that I know of
unnecessary for you to come and ask for help tomorrow.
If you are producing ARVs in India or wherever, and there's a market for it in Kenya, Why would you not? I think the decision would be more with the manufacturer than with the country. Let me give an example of, say, something like Kenya Medical Research Institute with the JICA assistance. KEMRI is actually able to produce test kits for HIV. They are able to produce it because they have a production center. Okay? Now, apart from just the research that they conduct, when JICA had assisted in putting up and building KEMRI to what it was, other people came in to partner. CDC is one of them. Okay, Wellcome Trust is another. Other agencies have also come in to work with KEMRI in the research field and have also contributed in growing it. Now, did JICA stop KEMRI from partnering with other agencies? The answer is no, they did not.
The approach that JICA had was, we are supporting you so that you can be I'm saying, according to the knowledge that I have, PEPFAR did the same thing. The idea, and you were told, we want you to get to a point where you can actually move on your own. You can run.
Yes, that's the understanding. And that's why we keep saying, at this point, this is what we're going to do. We're going to change the focus. Initial focus, let's build up, let's put up, let's do this, because we know you don't have them. When you've got them in place, then let us now move on to the next. Every phase was, let's get you to the point where you can do this on your own. That was the understanding.
Okay.
Why did I bring in the discussion of the blue economy? We already have the water. We don't have to look for it. It exists. The fish, they actually are there. We were born, we found them there. We don't really have to manufacture them. They're there. All we have to do is to safeguard and to ensure that they keep populating and that they are economically viable for us. Okay? What then do? We pass an act. 2018, we've had this water from antiquity. What else do? Do you hear of discussions that, say, for instance, the county government has, beyond just talking about what they want to do, things they have implemented? What we see is the aid. The Dongoku Road. We hear of the Lamu Port. We hear of projects that have been brought in to help. We have a master plan that JICA has for that coastal region, for the Mombasa County and beyond. We hear of it. But the question that really bothers me is, we hear all this, what is our role? Look at what, again, I'm bringing JICA. Look at what JICA did with that coastal region. You begin with the Sabaki River. You're talking about the bridge. You get to Kilifi, bridge. Okay? Mtwapa, bridge. You get to Mombasa, bridge. Those bridges, if you ask me, and you're talking about a project that opened up the coast completely, I would say those 4 bridges did precisely that. Now, once they've been built, what have we done? This really is. What have we done? They've been built.
Like
we are connected.
Like what?
The infrastructure that requires you to ensure that you are able to do or to perform and to conduct the industrial, commercial developments that you require has been put up for you. Okay? The question we're asking, are we then being put in a box so that we are forever enslaved? I'm saying, no. The freedom was provided and we didn't take it. That's really what I'm saying. It is us who didn't take. We are the ones who have not utilized the opportunity.
Give an example, for example, okay. So we have one development partner that has come and partnered with us in the construction of bridges, right, in this particular region.
Yes.
So what are these other opportunities that we missed?
When you have bridges such as the ones we're talking about, if you're talking about tourism, for instance, the bridges help open up tourism to that entire coastal region, just for starters.
Okay.
Remember that same group of people wanted to build a folding, opening up, the sort of bridges that you have across the Likoni Channel. We know how that has gone. But, nonetheless, they have helped fund the Dogo Kundu Road, isn't it? What am I saying? I am saying, when you've had people who are willing to come in and help you do the things that you are having difficulties do, what then is your role in ensuring that you utilize a facility that has actually been brought to your doorstep? It exists.
Which is what I'm asking you, CTU. So what is it name one opportunity that you see that has not been taken up?
Oh, one.
Yes, just one.
Oh.
Start with one.
Forget one.
No, just give us one.
No, I'm actually not going to give one. I'm going to give you 5. If somebody puts up an airport for you, for instance, do you want them to bring planes to actually land on that airport for you? If somebody...
It's the airport.
I
put it for you.
I thought I was actually having a serious discussion. I've realized.
It's because you're giving me five examples.
Eric
and instead of starting on the bridge, which is what
Eric is involved
you're now bringing airports.
In comedy. You see, Eric, the reason why I mentioned the bridge.
No, let's do this. Yeah? Give me examples specific to the bridges that you've talked about, right? Sabaki, Mtwapa, all those bridges with JICA, and then tell me, here are other opportunities that could have been taken advantage of that
because
have not
these
been,
bridges have been
because
erected.
these bridges have been erected that have not been taken advantage of. And I said, just give me one. You said you've given me five. Let's take a break. Weather, traffic, come up with your five. Five clear examples of this is what the national government, the Kilifi government, the Mombasa government, the Taita Taveta government, the Kwale government have missed and they could have done with this assistance that we got.
Okay.
So, Kenya's biggest conversation, 9:30. Let's take a break, take a look at the weather and traffic, and then we hear the missed opportunities. And we open up the phone lines, 0719-012-600. What is it that we can do better with the aid that we receive from development partners? That's our conversation this morning. Good morning.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial star 550 star 2 hash to read the Nairobian e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line and stay up to date, the hottest talk of town with no additional charges.
Naivas Supermarket believes in celebrating mothers every day. Tune in to Sugar and Spice with me, Yolanda Mulo and DJ Absolute from 11 a.m. every weekday to learn more about a Naivas mom and the similarities you can draw from the role it plays to Kenyans across the country. And stand a chance to win shopping vouchers with Naivas.
All right, it's still raining in Nairobi at 18, highs of 22 and lows of 16. Light rain in Nyeri at 17 with highs of 23 today. We'll see highs of 25 in Nakuru, where it is partly sunny at 19. Mostly sunny conditions in Eldoret at 18, warming up to highs of 23. We'll see highs of 27 in Kisumu. It's sunny currently at 23. 24 and sunny in Kakamega, highs of 27. Highs of 30 in Mombasa, where it's mostly sunny at 28. Highs of 30 as well in Malindi, where it's cloudy at 29. And mostly sunny in Kampala at 23, with 25 the high and lows of 18. Looking into Dar es Salaam, it's mostly sunny at 26. We'll go to highs of 30. And highs of 23 in Johannesburg, where it's 16 degrees and sunny right now. Mostly sunny conditions in Lagos at 26, highs of 32. We'll also see highs of 33 in Kinshasa, where it's cloudy at 26. It's sunny in Beijing, moving out east at 22, highs of 26, going into late afternoon. Mostly sunny conditions in Paris, and then going into some clouds and chance of thunderstorms later. Highs of 15 and lows of 9, and mostly cloudy in London at 12, coming down to lows of 9. It's 13 degrees and clear in New York right now. It'll go to highs of 21 and lows of 10.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
All right, not looking too crazy right now, though in and outbound on Mombasa Road, we still have a little bit of hold up here and there, especially around the General Motors and then moving towards Cabanas. Coming off of Jogo Road this morning also, we're still looking at it looking better. Okay, so looking at Thika Road coming into the city also, it is slow as it is on Limuru Road. So still in that heavy traffic situation, in about 9:30. Hopefully it will phase off as the hours go by. Spice FM KE through the day. That's how you can talk to us on Twitter or text 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. All right, okay.
spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice
Okay,
FM,
25
Nairobi.
minutes to 10. City?
One of the things that this assistance that I've been talking about, Eric, I see what you're saying when you talk about the cords that tie us to these, to the assistance that we receive. If you talk about the development of the port of Mombasa or Lamu, yes, it wasn't just JICA or Japan, it's Japan and the US, okay? But what has stood out when you look at these two things is this. You asked opportunities that have been missed? Okay. Let's start with something that began a lot earlier called the AGOA project, okay? We formed what you called export processing zones, and the goods that were being manufactured were meant for the US market.
Yep.
Now, we even had an act and we even had a pact that made it possible for Kenya to have some sort of advantage when it comes to production. But with all that we did, lost opportunity, we were able to create something like 50,000 jobs. Now, Bangladesh, who are doing something similar, were able to actually produce 3.5 million jobs. Because when you have an EPZ, it means you want trained personnel who can do this work. The work is already there, the market is already provided for you. We didn't fully take advantage of training as many people as we could to work in this sector, and yet the demand was there.
Or to even attract investors into this sector.
We did not. It came and we were just happy doing it. Now, with the EPZs, there are countries that have done one big thing when it comes to an opening of this sort. Forget just garments. They've been able to assemble vehicles, all right? Because we have a port, you simply ensure that that is a favorable place that people can come in. So the issue of jobs, you create job markets, but you also increase expertise. You have people who are trained in things that previously they were not trained to do. Now, you talk about the blue economy. One of the things that we have on our shows is unregulated fishing, and this loses us millions of shillings. In 2018, through this same effort, we had a conference. It was called the First Sustainable Blue Economy Conference, held in 2018. Now, with the conference, we even got help. Apart from just providing sustainable training, 17 patrol vehicles were provided for. Do you see an opportunity where Kenya, for instance, at the coast, has a manufacturing plant for, say, marine products? You do not see it. Do you see an opportunity where, for instance, local fishermen have been gotten into sustainable groups where their fishing, which is what they do anyway, is expanded to the point where they can actually help supplement or grow this economy that is their livelihood and has been for the longest time?
Yes,
I don't see it. You talk about missed opportunities.
I've seen that, but the scale is...
For it to be economically viable so that we can talk about it and even something that helps the economy, it has not gotten anywhere near that. That, if you ask me, are missed opportunities. So, that is what I am saying. The opportunities have been presented in that we've seen things. Now, do these countries gain? Of course they do gain. No one gives you free lunches. There is something that they gain, but my issue here is, do we take advantage?
Do you take advantage of the little?
Yes, so that we ourselves also can gain.
So grow it, essentially, is what we are saying here.
Yes.
As opposed to just being given something and then you sit on it for however long. Use it and then multiply it so that you actually reduce the chances of you having to go back to this resource again and again and again. That every time you've gotten some help, there should be some steps forward that you take with this resource that you've been given, so that you reduce your you reduce your heavy reliance on this same aid in the next cycle, whatever that may be, whether it's the next year, whether it's the next 5 years, whether it's the next 10 years. Because if you ask me, the focus should be a reduction on this reliance, because it really doesn't help you develop if you want to look at it. It may help you do something now, but if you're not taking advantage of what it presents, then you're just running on the spot, essentially.
Look at the largest, in my opinion, missed opportunity is fast forwarding this East African community and the Africa Free Trade Area. Because those opportunities would enable us to bargain better when we're talking about two countries who already have their sort of cooperation that helps them do their businesses together and further their interest. We would have a far bigger and better bargaining position if we had moved Because the East African community, we've done a lot. But can you imagine if it was functioning as it ought, all pistons working and it moving forward? The opportunities I'm talking about, it would further the growth of the region and everything we keep talking about. The resources that we have at our disposal that we do not take to the value-added position that we want in order to gain, we'll be able to do that. Those are missed opportunities. And we keep discussing them as missed opportunities year in, year out.
It's a speed and the effort that's actually put into some of these issues. The examples you've given, CT, yes, very good examples, and I see what you're saying. For example, AGOA is not only about garments. AGOA is also about crop.
Yes.
When you talk about Kenya being the largest export market for Kenyan nuts,
yes,
is the USA.
It is.
One of the largest export markets for Kenyan coffee is the USA. Now, we are talking about Kenyan coffee this year doing so well in the global market. How much have we actually opened up or taken advantage of that market for Kenyan nuts? To say that you can grow many more varieties of Kenyan nuts, you can streamline the growth, production, and exportation of nuts to the US market and take full advantage of AGOA. What did you talk to? Was it the former US ambassador? And he was telling us.
Yes, he was.
He's telling us we've basically AGOA, and look at the opportunities, the African Growth Opportunities Act. The opportunities that Kenya has taken advantage of are less than 50%.
Far less than 50%.
Of what the potential would have been.
And even when they extended it further, we still did not take advantage.
That one I completely agree. Blue ocean economy as well. Blue economy, Kenya hosted that international conference
here
with the support of Canada. Canada actually agreed, okay, let's not have the conference in Canada. Let's take it to Kenya and we shall help you. We shall do it jointly. So it was Kenya-Canada joint hosting of the Blue Economy Conference. Since then, the conversation that you'd have heard now being followed up is, what did we gain on the sidelines of this blue economy? What kind of deals did we strike? What kind of new market opportunities did we pursue? After that, what is it that's being done to take advantage of this? What has Kisumu and the others that are around Lake Victoria doing? What is it that the coastal counties are doing? What is it that Turkana is doing? And even all the others. Jumuiya ya Counties za Pwani, I know, has some programs that deal with blue economy. But the extent of those programs, vis-a-vis the advantages that we had with hosting the international blue economy, none has happened since the last one. So we're still the ones. Our president is still the one who is actually the chair of the global blue economy conversation. I agree, City.
You know,
we have opportunities. We do not milk them as much as possible.
Japan has a conference that they had in Japan for the longest time called TICAD. It is the International Conference on African Development. Now, I'm marrying this with the Africa Free Trade Area that we've been talking about in the AU. Okay. Now, for the first time, outside Japan, it had been in Yokohama 7 times. It came to Nairobi, 2016. The next time it will be there, it will be in Tunisia in 2022, next year. Okay. Now, when these conferences come in, everyone from all over the world comes here. Now, it's like a free marketing conference.
Yeah.
People who would otherwise not want to come to your country will come to your country.
Yeah.
An opportunity for them to see what you can do.
And you have their attention.
Yes, forget Nairobi National Park. That one they'll go to. Okay, they'll go to the Masai Mara. Just think of the opportunities that you have to showcase what you can. That's what these conferences do.
To so many people at one time.
We miss those opportunities. You're talking about investment. They have come. Those are investors. Those are people who are interested in working. But the biggest opportunity is to become the most serious business hub on the continent. Because with all these things that come here, you're blessed with the sea. You're not looking for it, it's there. You're blessed with the wildlife. You're blessed with, think of all the natural resources. When people come and you don't take advantage of these preferential and advantageous positions you have, surely...
missed opportunities.
Yes, and you talk about missed opportunities. Can you even count to 5? You will go beyond that because these are mega missed opportunities. And when you miss them, somebody else will take that advantage.
It's how long we actually take to actualize these opportunities.
Yes.
Because by the time Kenya is out there campaigning to host TICAD and be the first country outside Japan that's hosting TICAD,
yes,
it's because there are people who are saying, okay, this can do a lot for us.
It can work.
Japanese companies come. The number of Japanese companies that have invested in the country since TICAD, you can say there's
They've increased.
There's increased.
They've actually increased significantly.
But could we have done a lot more?
We could have.
Are we doing a lot more? If we talk about that, the opportunities that come with the access of Kenyans to Japanese education, to working in Japan, to then attracting more and more Japanese companies to work in the country, you look back and you're like, okay, we could be moving a lot faster, but it's like we have competition. If you talk to government agencies, you'll hear people in foreign affairs have this, people in trade are talking this.
But
the one who should be taking lead on this is saying, no, I should not be taking lead. No, you should not be taking lead. I should be taking lead. So there's a whole competition between various government agencies and ministries and departments on who should be doing one and the other.
But I think that is just a temporary conversation, because if it was really looking towards the future, then you would find that the conversations would be on a deeper level. But I think there's a salient mindset that, you know what, okay, we'll maybe think of something later, and should we need help with it, there's always somebody we can fall back. I'm telling you, that fallback plan idea is still stuck in the minds of very many people who should be in the implementation process of some of these things. It is that we will get help. It's that we will get aid later. We will be able to knock on somebody's door and somebody will answer us and give us help later, as opposed to thinking through the structure process now.
Ask yourself this simple question. With the investment that you see these countries having put into, say, Kenya or the coastal region, if the African free trade area was actually seen to its logical conclusion, can you look at the trade and manufacturing hub that Mombasa, that region, would be? Singapore is a tiny little country. Okay? My friend, if you are talking about the manufacturing capacity of Singapore, if you're talking about just the business capacity of Singapore, the seafaring vessels, Singapore is one of the largest hubs on the planet when it comes to the business community. On the planet. Why? An environment in which such business can be conducted has been made possible. Meaning people who have taken advantage of the opportunities that have come their way to make Singapore just about one of the richest countries, again, on the planet. And who do you think is the net beneficiary? The citizen. Singapore doesn't have a fraction of the natural resources that we have.
Yep.
There are those who argue Singapore and Hong Kong, they're just pieces of rock somewhere in the middle of the sea.
Let's hear from John as we conclude the conversation today. John, in a minute. Good morning.
Yes. Morning. How are you?
Very well.
Interesting conversation. On the start of this month, the Kenyan ambassador from South Korea wrote a letter to the Council of Governors. And he was telling the Council of Governors that in 2018, the Cabinet Secretary visited South Korea, and they had a bilateral consultation, and it was agreed that Kenya can export bananas and broccoli to South Korea unconditionally. Now, the reason why he's writing is that he's actually saying that even after that, in fact, his words, to quote him, he says, the numbers which have been exported are so small and dismal. The opportunity we were given an open check by
right
South
there
Korea.
on a silver platter.
Yes, just to export bananas and broccoli.
John, you'll
So
give us
he's
the details of this actually tomorrow.
I will.
We want to hear this. In fact, if you can just forward us that letter from Ambassador in South Korea. Hey, thank you very much, John. Have a lovely day. City, as we come to the conclusion of the conversation, as we're ending it. Oh, no, not yet ending. It's just about 10 minutes to the top of the hour. So John will give us the details of that particular conversation,
Yes,
right?
he can.
And we want to hear again as well from you, 0719-012-600. What is it that we have had the opportunities to do that we have really not taken advantage of so far in this country? This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. Good morning.
kidole. Tengesa kidole, agano kidole, agano kidole, agano. Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources? Yet we have real challenges in this country.
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing.
10
that
minutes to the top of the hour,
healthcare-
to the end of the show. 0719-012-600. Hey, John, with that 3rd of this month, letter from Kenya's embassy to the Council of Governors. This thing has been there. And by the time the ambassador is writing, it's because on the other side, the business community is saying, but we want to get more.
Want to participate here?
Yes, we want to get more from you, and we are not getting. Those are the opportunities that you just.
So all you need to do, really, if you look at it, is facilitate.
Yes,
facilitate for these things to happen. But even the facilitation seems to me such a neck-breaking exercise.
We produce bananas. Just start there.
And now, but then all you have to do is facilitate for them to move from point A to point B, assign the players.
It's about the organization of the market.
Organize all of this.
But some of those things, by the way,
placed before you on a silver platter. All you have to do is execute.
Some of those things, much as you may hear them talking about that. So the ambassador in South Korea is saying this. You will come into the country and you'll find the chair of the Agriculture Committee in the Council of Governors is aware of this. There are some governors who have tried to do this, but then you find the conversation between the council, the national government, that facilitation making it easier for you to move. Issues galore. Bottlenecks being put from left, right, center, all over. If you look at the work that the Murang'a governor, Mwangi wa Iria, has done in terms of just sensitizing the people on the opportunities for nuts and fruits and avocado. Go to Murang'a, almost in every household today, you will find an avocado tree. And this is the work of the county government basically just going around saying, people, there will be opportunities on avocado. Plant. Saying, investors come. Once this product is here, the next thing, of course, will be the private sector to come in and find ways of aggregating this. Come, aggregate. You will find at some point, for you to set up a factory that aggregates, that collects avocados from across Murang'a County and brings them here for processing, power issues, importation of the heavy equipment or machinery. How much are you paying in terms of duty just to import that? How expensive is it for you to put up a plant? So all that work that's being done by a county government then gets to a certain level where
it fizzles out.
Just fizzles out.
Shooting yourself, I think what's happening is shooting yourself in the foot.
Pointing your foot.
You have the gun, you present your foot, you shoot it. And then, as opposed to even finding a way to heal it, you then proceed to shoot it again.
Yes.
That's what's happening here. Because it's not for want of opportunities, it's not for lack of. They are there. And here presenting itself to actually grow your economy on your own, to take yourself away from these aid situations that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Why wouldn't we just pick it up? The little politics don't help. They don't help in any way, shape, or form. So we talk about dependence on aid. In a lot of times, in a lot of cases, we actually are fueling that dependence. We're fueling it. In as much as we can say that those who offer up the aid, actually, they enjoy a position whereby they kind of keep you on the foot, which is true in a lot of cases, but not in all. We also are in a position whereby we say, okay, well, you know what? We're going to continue to be, we're enabling ourselves to remain in that dormant position. It's the case. Because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
Left, right, and center on all things that we're talking about. Avocado, we have grown to be one of the largest, Africa's largest exporter of avocados is Kenya. The world's 8th largest exporter of avocados is Kenya. Government delegation goes to China, secures market for avocados and other parts. But go around the country, show me where there is one proper avocado processing plant. You will see people, private sector, somebody will look at opportunity, see how I can put up an avocado plantation, and then the county government will come and start saying, but
you don't have this license.
You don't have this. You need this and the other. You need to do this.
Cut off your left arm.
When you talk about now bringing that and exporting it, you need this and the other. Cafes will not give you. It just becomes a whole issue. How many licenses do you require to get avocados out of this country?
So when we talk about the cost of doing business, or rather an environment conducive for doing some of these kind of things, is actually the responsibility that government has on its shoulders. Make it possible for these things to happen.
Your funders or people who give you aid have their interest. They've understood what they want. But why don't you take care of what you can gain from this understanding? See, the Africa Free Trade Area is supposed to actually start functioning. It was supposed to from January this year. That's how it's supposed to be. Now, you tell me, when someone brings about a development plan for you and a master plan for you and presents it, let me just read what it covers. What Dijk created for Mombasa was Mombasa Development Project, Port Development Project. The US also helped with this. Same with Lamu. Mombasa Port Area Development Project, the Comprehensive Development Plan for Mombasa Gate City, the Mombasa Gateway Bridge, the Mombasa Special Economic Zone. And then they also helped expand the Mombasa International Airport. Now, what I'm saying is, that is someone who is raiding you for the Africa Free Trade Area business. They've already seen and said, maybe as we move on in the next 10 years,
it could be big for you.
You will be the biggest hub where this thing can actually take place, just given your location, given everything that you have. Okay? Now, what more do you want them to do? Should you not also be marrying the plans that you have with this, because you know what is happening, and work into ensuring that this actually happens so that you develop? Countries that have done this thing, we can see. They transform not just the economy, but the livelihood of the citizens permanently.
Yes, that's
transformed.
It.
Done.
That is
finished.
It. And I'm still going to go to that, back to that duty of care. If you have governance that cares for its people, these things that we're talking about will not be rocket science to figure out. If you know that the people and their livelihoods actually are being cared for, all these things just fall in place. They kind of fall in place because you know that we see this opportunity, we must do this, because at the end of the day, we're trying to care for our people. Another opportunity presents itself. These are the things that we can do because we have duty of care for our people.
Yep.
You know, remember we're talking about the tea industry a while back when we had Mr. Mudibo talking to us, the CEO of the East Africa Tea Trade Association. If you look at the one organization that is actually mandated to look after the majority of the tea producers in this country, who are small-scale farmers, KTDA. KTDA has done wonderful things that are at the level of what you call world-class developments. They have their own trading company, they've gone into insurance, they've gone... One small problem, none of these things benefit the farmer. Because you talk to the farmer and you're saying, oh, he produced X kilos of tea. That's not what you're paid for. That tea is dried. All right? When it is dried, in that form, it has lost the water and what have you. It's that weight that is then considered when they want to pay you.
Yes.
So it will be less. But it is because of that tea that you are able to do what the muscle that you have to be able to have chai as your buying company, insurance company. It's what enables you. Now, the opportunity to make the farmer a viable partner is lost when the people who run it now want to focus on how they can benefit.
That's true.
See? Lost opportunities at every turn.
Entrepreneurs here, government bottlenecks and bureaucracies there. Isa in Hurlingham says, too many licenses and cartels involved. Just trying to get anything out of this country. City, today's proverb.
One who causes misfortune also teaches wisdom. Do you think it's appropriate?
It is.
These misfortunes
Very.
will teach the citizenry wisdom.
Very.
Yes.
Thank you very much for tuning in. Nick says the government is implementing the Liwatoni Fisheries Complex Mombasa, which seeks to upgrade the Liwatoni complexes to a full fishing port with cold storage rooms, value addition, and export facilities. Yes, it is. The details of that, though, Nick, of what exactly is happening on the ground, different. Thank you for tuning in.